Josh Lambo. 27 kickoffs so far, 20 touchbacks. You want to get inside the 25-yard line, and essentially he's done that here this afternoon. Back deep to receive for the Raiders. He's going to be a focal point on offense and in the return game. That's DeAndre Washington, who is joined back there by fellow rookie Jalen Richard. Both of those guys are unbelievable stories in the early going of the football season. So here we go, the Chargers and the Raiders. This is a must-win for the San Diego Chargers, and the Raiders will take over 1st and 10 from their 25. How about Derek Carr? What a jewel he has been for the Oakland Raiders. Last week against Baltimore, 199 yards. That's pretty good, but 4 touchdowns and already 6 game-winning drives in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, all the stats are there. The touchdowns, the interceptions, the game-winning drives. I think what's most impressive is when you watch him out there in the woods of Rod Woodson, the great defensive backs coach, is that he's learning to play the game. He's understanding what's going on out there, finding his matchups, and a big reason why they should be excited about his development.
Amari Cooper's in motion. Olawale is in the backfield. He's the fullback. We'll see a lot of him today. Pass is complete to Roberts, and he's up to the 31-yard line, a gain of 6. All right, so let's take a look at this Raiders offense. The offensive line, there was some question about who was going to start at right tackle. Well, Vidal Alexander, so good in the run game because of his days at LSU. He gets the nod. And from a skill position standpoint, DeAndre Washington, he's going to get a lot of touches today along with Richard in the backfield. It is Washington who's in the backfield now on 2nd down and 4. It's a 5-man front for the Chargers, and Washington is able to get the first down, and he's dragged down from behind by Melvin Ingram. Let's take a look at that Chargers defense. One of our favorite players to talk to was Brandon Mebane the last time we saw San Diego, and he has been a very big leader for the Chargers so far this year. Melvin Ingram, we just saw him make the tackle. He could be a game breaker in the backfield if he gets into the face of Derek Carr. The secondary, well, it's a who's who. A lot of injuries. Casey Hayward is stepping up, making the start today for the injured Brandon Flowers. It'll be 1st and 10 from the 39-yard line.
That's it.
Derek Carr, quick 3-step drop, looking to the inside for Amari Cooper, and he can't make the one-handed grab. Casey Hayward in on the coverage. Hayward was looking forward to the matchups against Crabtree and Cooper.
And if you do your film study, you know that in the first few series of the game, they try and isolate Amari Cooper one-on-one and try and get one downfield. And I think, you know, that's one thing that they really want to do in this game. He started out hot in the first game of the season against the New Orleans Saints. But since then, his numbers have gone down a little bit. And I think because of the emergence of Michael Crabtree, they feel they can get him in one-on-one situations and win.
What did he tell us the other day? He said that it's not frustrating that I don't have a touchdown yet. Amari Cooper, he said, you just have to be patient because it will come. On 2nd down and 10, they're trying to set up the screen, and it's intercepted by the Chargers. Mebane was able to pick it out of the air. I don't think that's exactly what Derek Carr was trying to establish, but Brandon Mebane, the nose tackle, picks it off.
Pressure inside by the exciting rookie Jatavis Brown, number 57, playing for Manti Te'o. He comes in there a free hitter, and that's one thing you don't see a lot of. Derek Carr under duress, forcing him into making that bad mistake, and then it's a pretty good play right there by number 92.
Yeah, the ball was deflected. Well, you talk about pressure, only 7 quarterback hits against Derek Carr so far this year. And it's only the 2nd interception he has thrown. So Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, excellent field position on their first possession of the day from the 30-yard line. The handoff is given to Melvin Gordon, who spins back to the original line of scrimmage. Phillip Rivers in his 13th year. He's on the doorstep of some pretty impressive records. 2 touchdowns away from matching Johnny Unitas. He's going to be in some rarefied air real soon.
It's really amazing. It seems like every week he has to deal with something, somebody going down. Sometimes his skill guys or even maybe his offensive line, but it's his ability to produce. And I think the one thing, that pre and post snap ability to find matchups, is what sets him apart from most quarterbacks in the NFL.
2nd down and 10 from just inside the 30-yard line. Rivers to throw to his left. Pass is complete. He has Williams. Let's take a look at the Chargers offense. We begin with the offensive line. Joe Barksdale is out. Hairston starts. King Dunlap, though, is back. That's huge. He's been out the last couple weeks with migraines. And Dontrell Inman had a big week last week for the Chargers.
He's one of the most improved players on this team, and they needed somebody to step up when Keenan Allen went. And it's been a little bit by committee at the wide receiver spot, but last week, a major breakthrough. And I think he's a guy that Phillip Rivers knows that he can trust in key situations.
Particularly with the injury to Keenan Allen earlier this year and also to Woodhead. It's 3rd down and 2. And Rivers audibilizing, dumps it up to Antonio Gates, who's back in the lineup, and it's knocked away, and it's picked out of the air by the Raiders. That doesn't happen all that often where Antonio Gates loses the football.
This is what you've seen from Antonio Gates his entire career. On the left side of your screen, a little pivot route against the inside linebacker, easy throw and catch, but look at the fight throughout the snap by the inside linebacker right there, getting that ball out, fighting throughout the snap of the whistle, and the defense getting the ball back for their offense. That's Perry Riley. Add a different number on him on my sheet.
When he signed, he was number 56, and they changed it to 54 today, and he was just signed earlier this week. So 2 turnovers, 1 for each team, and the Raiders get the football. 1st and 10 from the 11-yard line. Carr out of the shotgun, 2nd possession of the day, and his pass is nearly intercepted. That was Melvin Ingram. We got a little jitters going on here in this AFC West showdown.
Great job. You're going to see Melvin Ingram. He's going to act like he's coming in, and then he's going to drop out. Carr thinks he's going to rush, but then the zone pressure jumps out at the very last moment, gets in that passing lane, and almost comes down with another interception. There's a lot of action here today so far, Tom.
John Pagano, the defense coordinator, and every defense coordinator says this, but he said we have to disguise against Derek Carr. So that was a pretty nice disguise by Melvin Ingram. 2nd down and 10. Carr from the shotgun. And he'll dump it off incomplete. It was intended for Jalen Richard. All right, let's take a look at Arch's angles, what you're looking for today.
Oh, because of the secondary that we're seeing from the San Diego Chargers, all the injuries, that front 7 has to put Carr under tremendous stress, something that teams haven't been able to do so far this season. And they got to find a way to contain this duo. Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper, 2 guys that can win against anybody. And then last week we saw a little bit of an emergence from this pass rush. Khalil Mack on one side and Bruce Irvin on the other side have the ability to change the game by rushing the quarterback.
By the way, Joey Bosa's in for the first time for the Chargers, left side of the defensive line. Pass is complete to Cooper, and Cooper has a 1st down. Casey Hayward in the coverage in the tackle. Gain of 11 yards. There's Joey Bosa. We'll keep an eye on him this afternoon.
This is why I think people are so excited about his development. See as he scans over to the left side of the field, and then immediately, no hesitation, he knows exactly where his other receiver is, comes back, gets the ball out of his hands. That's what he's been doing so well this season.
Jack Del Rio talked to us about how the game is slowed down for him, and it's so important for young quarterbacks to do that. The handoff is given to Richard, and Richard over the left side is dragged down from behind after a short gain. Kyle Emanuel makes the tackle.
We've talked a lot about, and we've heard a lot about Derek Carr and his wide receivers. I think we have to remember that this team is pretty balanced coming into this game, running the ball for about 124 yards per game. Now, they weren't able to get that running game on track last week against the Baltimore Ravens, and they're losing 2 key players today. Latavius Murray, their big back, and their blocking tight end Lee Smith, 2 key components to this run game. So today, 2 rookies are going to have to carry that load.
They're also without Tywan Jones, who has gotten some touches in the backfield, and Clive Walford was also inactive today, another tight end. And here's Richard. What a free agent pickup he has been, up to the 29-yard line, the rookie out of Southern Miss. There's John Pagano, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers. They've done a nice job against the run game. In fact, Casey Hayward said they've stepped it up against the run. He said we have to be better in the pass game. 27th overall. About 5 minutes into this first quarter, 1 turnover apiece. Carr nearly got Joey Bosa to jump on the left side. Play clock down to 2. And Carr lofts it to the far side of the field. And what a grab by Amari Cooper. He stayed in bounds, and they'll mark him at the 45.
When we talk about Derek Carr learning how to play the game, pre-snap, checks at the line of scrimmage. He sees he has Cooper on Pierre Desir, or excuse me, Steve Williams, and he's playing because of the injury to Jason Verrett, and he easily beats him off the line and drops a perfect pass.
Well, what did Rod Woodson tell us the other day? He said, listen, if Derek Carr sees somebody with the number 40 covering Amari Cooper, you got to go to him, and he just went to him right there.
Yeah, I don't care where the ball is supposed to go, you go to that guy.
Gain of 26 and a timeout called by the Chargers.
First charge timeout. San
Will be the
Diego.
first timeout. All right, so a lot of activity, no points yet. We'll be back to Oakland right after this. The thing we've noticed here in Oakland is that youth has been served, Amanda Balionis, and that's been a big deal for the Raiders.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. I had a chance to speak with offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave about how young these guys are. So many rookies in this starting lineup, and he said there's an upside to having so many rookies. One, you can shape them into what you want them to be. Two, you don't have to break any bad habits maybe they formed at other teams. And thirdly, maybe the most important, they are hungry. These guys are hungry to be out there every single week. And Michael Crabtree talking about the early success of this team, saying, keeping it simple. He said, we're doing a lot less talking, a lot more doing.
Well, there's no doubt about that. Jatavis Brown makes the tackle as Derek Carr goes down at the 46-yard line, a loss of 1. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get with some of the rookies, particularly the free agent signings. But for the Raiders, a lot of it has worked out so far this year.
They have, and they've had to do a lot of work to this roster over the last few years. And I think you're starting to see some of the moves that they've made have started to pay off. And I don't think Jack Del Rio or anybody on his staff is afraid of putting the young guys in the line of fire and get them ready to play.
Well, speaking of those young guys, here's Washington on the draw, and there's a flag that comes in. Washington gets to the 39-yard line. It's going to be holding against the Raiders. Corey Toomer makes the tackle for the Chargers.
Offense number 66. 10-yard penalty. Replay, second down.
Well, that's Gabe Jackson, the right guard, who's called for the holding penalty. Gene Steratore, our referee this afternoon. Asked Jack Del Rio about the penalties. He said, listen, the penalties are going to clean themselves up as the year goes on. He said, we're not worried about it at all. Now, they have been penalized a lot. They're averaging nearly 88 yards a game with penalties.
I think you know how I feel. This game, whether it's the Raiders or anybody else, is grossly over officiated. And so I'll just let it rest at that. How about?
I don't know if you're alone with that assessment. Second down and 21. Under 8.5 to play here in the first quarter. Derek Carr has time, middle of the field. Pass is complete. Richard, the rookie, has a first down. And he's going to be marked at the 33-yard line.
This is what Richard brings out of the backfield. You're going to isolate him one-on-one with an inside linebacker and just let him go to work. That is way too much space. He just makes his plant, explodes upfield. And I know Latavius Murray has made a lot of yards on the ground, but on third downs out of the backfield, this young rookie has a lot to add to this offense.
By the way, Kirkland, the offensive lineman, is in the backfield to start. He's lined up on the left side of the offensive line. Here's Richard again, and Richard makes a beautiful cutback to the outside and is taken down at the 27-yard line. Craig Mager makes the tackle. Be the first to know your team's news with the CBS Sports app. Get instant updates, expert analysis, highlights, and more. Download the CBS Sports app today. Well, if you had that app, you would have seen what Tom Brady did earlier today. 4 touchdowns to help out Adam Archuleta's fantasy football team.
Not really, though, because Gronk and Edelman only had about 7 points apiece.
Well, it's still a prelude for you of what may come.
I need a breakout.
Second down and 2. Another handoff, another run by Richard, and Richard has the first down. Sometimes you wonder how some guys go undrafted, because Richard has really done a nice job in a limited role. And as we mentioned, he and Washington, because of the injuries to Murray and Jones, are going to get a lot of time here today.
And, Tom, I think you have to give a lot of credit to this offensive line. They've been phenomenal this season. And even the rookie, Vidal Alexander, who started here the last couple games at right tackle, has been the only change up there. So those 4 guys inside have done a great job protecting Derek Carr, but also moving defensive lines out of the way for those backs to pick up steam.
Well, this will be the 11th play of the drive. Olawale was in motion out of the backfield. Carr dumps it off to DeAndre Washington out of the backfield. And he's taken down by Kyle Emanuel and Joshua Perry, the rookie out of Ohio State. It's still a positive gain on first down.
This is, as we all know, the Oakland Raiders in the red zone are among the best in the National Football League. And 2 things you can bet on that you're going to get throughout the course of the day if they get down to this area. You're going to get jump balls to Michael Crabtree or Amani Cooper, or you're going to get sprint out pass when they get in low and try and let Seth Roberts work the slot.
Well, Crabtree is to the bottom. Cooper is to the top in this formation. On second down, Carr looking to the end zone for Crabtree. He has it at the 4. He's going to get to the 3-yard line. Casey Hayward in on the coverage. You think he did that little hop start to get things rolling?
He only really does that off of off coverage, but he is so good at the top of the route. And what did he talk about in our meetings the other day? He likes to put a little crossover move in there. That's a little bit of his influence at the top of the route to get that great separation. But he is among one of the best in the National Football League at the top of the route, getting that separation.
He said he learned it watching Mitch Richmond. He said he was a big basketball fan, so he puts a little basketball into the football game. It'll be first and goal from inside the 5, and Carr, with the play clock down to 1, needs to call a timeout. So the Raiders are on the doorstep. 4:54 to play here in the first quarter. So the Raiders' free interactive pregame fan festival is currently in its 8th season. A great opportunity to have some fan experience as you come to the ball game. It'll be first and goal for the Raiders.
Yeah, Denver Kirkland, a 340-pound tackle, is lined up at tight end, at the extra tight end to the right side of the offense.
Now the handoff is given to Washington, who powers through the middle and maybe gets inside the 2-yard line. Brandon Mebane is difficult to move, and he makes the tackle for the Chargers on that one.
I think this is where they would like to have a little Latavius Murray. Isn't that kind of his specialty?
Yeah, it's 6'3", 230 pounds, but he's inactive with a bad toe.
So far, I think you have to be pretty impressed the way this offensive line is attacking the San Diego defense. This is a good rush defense they're up against.
Olawale, the fullback, is spread out to the far side.
Yeah, watch sprint out pass.
That's Cooper that's in motion. There it is. To the corner of the end zone. Roberts loses it out of bounds. Actually, they're going to say incomplete. Well, that was a good hit by Dwight Lowry, the veteran.
They love this. They've made a living on this sprint out pass, but the Chargers do a good job of not allowing Carr to get outside the pocket. And a good recovery by Lowry to come over there on the sideline, get that ball out. Tough defense down near the goal line to try and get the ball in the end zone too.
All right, so 3rd and goal. They've converted 2 third-down conversions on this drive.
You got to watch the back of the end zone. They love to wrap Crabtree and Cooper in the back of the end zone in this position.
Out of the shotgun, they locked it to the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Raiders! No, incomplete. He was out of bounds. Stevie Williams was in on the coverage. Amari Cooper had it, but he didn't get both feet in.
Oh, he tried, though. Watch his feet, how they just do that quick tap. He understands that he's running out of room, and he just tries to get it in, but you see the left toes go out there into the white. But that was a great route, a great release, perfect throw, just ran out of room.
Well, an excellent call by the official. One. And he does run out of room. You see the toe. So this will be a 20-yard field goal attempt by the veteran Sebastian Janikowski. Marquette King is the holder. Low snap, handled well. And that's a chip shot for Sebastian Janikowski. So the Raiders take a 3-0 lead. Amari Cooper nearly had his first touchdown of the year, but it was ruled incomplete. Here with the Denver Broncos tangle with these same San Diego Chargers. Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network. Amanda told us that Jack Del Rio almost challenged on this touchdown pass that was incomplete.
Yeah, it was a good job by Jack Del Rio. You're going to see right there as he stretches out right there, and the left toe clearly in the white.
So it's a 16-play, 87-yard drive. It took 8 minutes, and the Raiders get 3 points out of it, 8:01 to be exact. A 20-yard field goal for Janikowski, who's now 9 of 10 on the year. McCluster back deep to receive. He'll return this one from the 1. And he lowers his shoulder up to the 20-yard line. So the Chargers down by 3. Let's see if Phillip Rivers, the veteran, can answer when we return.
NFL on CBS is sponsored by Bud Light. Beer with your team on it. And by T-Mobile. Ditch your carrier and switch to the Un-carrier.
Well, we've been here for a couple of days, and Alcatraz has been clear from every vantage point from downtown Oakland to downtown San Francisco. 3-0, Raiders on top. Great stand by the Chargers defense. And Phillip Rivers under center. Off the play fake, looking to throw, middle of the field, and his pass is intercepted. Sean Smith picks it off, and he's still on his feet. And Sean Smith has some blockers to the outside. He's directing traffic, and he's knocked out of bounds. Travis Benjamin was the intended receiver, and he came back to make that tackle.
This was so well done by Sean Smith. They're trying to get the fast guy locked up on a bigger corner. Ball underthrown just a bit, but Smith coming in there undercuts the route, goes up, snatches that ball out of the sky, and just well done. Now, this secondary, we've talked about it. They got beat up a little bit in the first 2 games of the season, but in the last couple games, you've seen more and more big plays come out of this secondary. Great recovery by Smith.
So it'll be first down for the Raiders, and this play is blown dead. A flag comes in, a false start.
False start. Offense number 61. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Let's go to New York with JB for an update. JB?
Fancy footwork by Tyrod.
That's right. It's Tyrod Taylor buying some time in the pocket there, guys. Take a look at how he's bouncing around, dancing, and he finds Justin Hunter back at the end zone. 4-yard touchdown pass. Bills take the lead, 7-3 over the Rams.
Hey, Tom, I think Adam Archuleta had moves like that before, too. Back to Tom.
Without a doubt. My man knows talent.
JB, he's told us it's more about the paint job now than what's happening inside.
Oh, come on. That's between us.
First down and 15 off the penalty. And the handoff to Washington, who is snuffed behind the line of scrimmage. Corey Toomer, the former Raider. Tuesday, he's not a lawyer, but he knows how to win the case. Michael Weatherly stars in TV's #1 news show, Bull. New episode Tuesday after NCIS, only CBS. What did John Pagano tell us? You know, his team has been banged up in the red zone. He said, we need to hold the Raiders to field goals. They did it on the first drive. This is the 21st play of the first quarter for the Raiders. That's Crabtree, who's in motion. Carr looking downfield, goes underneath to Amari Cooper. And Cooper makes a couple guys miss, and Joey Bosa comes flying in to make the tackle. It'll be third down. I don't want to overstate things, but I think you see right there the speed that Bosa provides.
Yeah, and this is another thing that Cooper provides, and we've seen a big emphasis to try and get him the ball here in this game. They've attacked downfield early, but this is the other thing that he does extremely well, yards after the catch, because of that great athletic talent that he has. Good job by that Charger defense to limit that gain to not much.
Joey Bosa, who hasn't played a game since the first quarter of the Fiesta Bowl. He was ejected from that ball game. The hamstring injury after holding out this year, and now another penalty is called. Another false start.
False start. Offense number 72. 5-yard penalty. third down.
Well, that's Donald Penn. Again, Jack Del Rio said the penalties aren't a big deal, but they've had a couple of them on this drive that's kind of stalled it for the Raiders.
Boy, that was as subtle as it gets. I'm not sure I saw much movement at all from Donald Penn. I mean, that was, maybe he moved his left heel, but pretty close.
They're down at 15. And Carr steps away, dumps it off to Washington, and Washington will be stopped at the 32-yard line. Brown makes the tackle, but again, Carr was under duress, which you talked about as one of your angles today, that they have to get pressure on him.
Yeah, it's huge, and he just hasn't been under stress for much of this season at all. That's why he's been able to carve up defenses. But you see the pressure over there on the right side, but I think more importantly, the secondary, making Carr dump that off, understanding the situation that it's 3rd and long, and your best bet here is to try and force the field goal.
Well, it'll be the second field goal attempt for Janikowski. This one will be right at 50 yards. He has 53 50-yard or more field goals in his career, which is tops in the NFL. Marquette King is the holder for the Raiders. Well, John Pagano has to be pleased. He has one field goal attempt that his defense is forced, and now here's the second one, and it is no good. Wide to the right. Only the second miss of the year for Janikowski, so Rivers' turnover doesn't hurt. Chargers get it back when we return.
NFL on CBS.
Last week, the Chargers hosted their 4th annual free mammogram event at Qualcomm Stadium in partnership with the Susan G. Komen San Diego to help make the event possible. In 2013, the Chargers, how about this? You forget about this, but they became the first NFL team to support Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the movement has spread league-wide. Screening saves lives, and the NFL and the American Cancer Society encourage everyone to join the fight against breast cancer. Learn more about a Crucial Catch Day on October 25th and find out how you can help make a crucial catch at NFL.com/pink. See a lot of pink around the stadium today. Adam and I have our pink ties. Amanda has her pink blouse on, and you see on our score bug, you'll see the pink pop up from time to time as Rivers to throw on first down over the head of Henry. So Rivers has the turnover, but how about the defense the last 2 drives for the Chargers and how well they handled it?
Yeah, huge for a lot of reasons and uncharacteristic, because you go back last week, they're really upset about the way that Saints game turned out. 2 chances to stop them from going in the end zone at the end of that game. They feel they would have won. And the Raiders, not only a great red zone team, but they capitalized last week against the Baltimore Ravens. 2 short fields that led to touchdowns. So a very good start for John Pagano's defense.
On second down, Philip Rivers has Benjamin knocked out of bounds. More on the sidelines. Let's go down to Amanda. Amanda?
Yeah, thanks, guys. John Pagano, defensive coordinator, came out and told his guys, great job. Keep executing, really encouraging them, screaming at the top of his lungs, trying to get them pumped up and to stay up. So Pagano, exactly what you said, Arch, really happy so far with his defense.
Well, anybody that's ever met John Pagano, he doesn't enter a room quietly. 3rd down and 4. Chargers at 46%. Last week, 55% this season.
Travis Benjamin at the 3 spot has caused a lot of fits for defenses.
Rivers looks, and the pass is complete but short. Inman goes to the ground about a half-yard shy. Sean Smith came in on the coverage. I think they're going to go for it here, Adam.
Well, I think this offense, they need some rhythm and some timing. Before this drive, the Chargers had 4 plays and 2 turnovers. So they have to get more plays, and they have to get going. They have to get a spark to try and get some energy.
Gordon's in the backfield and movement on the defensive line. It looked like Stacy McGee moved. Autry may have moved as well. Number 96 is is Autry. I didn't see any sudden movement by.
I think the Raiders went first.
Yep.
Neutral zone infraction defense. Number 96. 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
I think Perry Riley pushed his own teammate Autry, and Autry just went forward.
He did. Yeah, he did. He triggered him right there. Oh, man. I mean, you got to read your scouting report. You know Phillip Rivers, one of the best hard count quarterbacks in the National Football League. On 4th down at midfield, you know that has to be an option for the Chargers offense, and you just give them a free first down.
That's 4 penalties already for the Raiders. Here's Gordon. Gordon sidesteps one tackler, tries to get outside, and he does. Ken Whisenhunt said this week, he said, we have to run the ball more. And Gordon's numbers the last couple weeks have not been the same as they were the first 2 weeks. Of course, he had that fumble last week. So he gives them the first down as we wind down the first quarter. Raiders up 3-0. I have to admit, I don't think anybody expected this many turnovers, but look at the time of possession for the Raiders and the total yards compared to the Chargers. That's because the Chargers have had a fumble and an interception on their first 2 possessions, and now their 3rd possession, they've got a 2nd and 2 from the Raiders 37. Melvin Gordon in the backfield next to Rivers. Williams way to the top as a receiver. Benjamin by himself to the near side. And the handoff goes to Gordon, who is tracked down from behind. Khalil Mack, such a special player, makes the tackle. He may only have 1 sack this year, but as Jack Del Rio told us, he is definitely in the mix.
Yeah, I don't know. If you're going to run the ball, you think it's a good idea to let Matt go unblocked off the edge?
I don't think it's a good idea, no. 30-year pro out of Buffalo. 3rd down and 3. Chargers 0 for 2 on 3rd down so far. Rivers steps up in the pocket, middle of the field, has Antonio Gates. He hangs on this time inside the 30. Harry Riley Jr. in on the tackle. Did they adjust on Mack?
You know you're going to draw some attention. One-on-one over here. Makes him run the hoop. Rivers steps up. And then you get the savvy, crafty move by Gates, working on the linebacker one more time, running an option route. But good rush awareness from Phillip Rivers to step up and fire the ball out to his tight end.
Antonio Gates has been out with a hamstring. He said this week, he said, I'm not 100%, but I'm okay to play. Hunter Henry is in motion. The handoff to Gordon, and Gordon knifes through for a couple. They actually may just give him 1 yard. Justin Ellis makes the tackle for the Raiders.
Yeah, I feel like coming into this game, we know that San Diego is a passing offense, and that's just the way it's going to be. But I do feel like they should be able to run the ball a little bit against the Raiders front.
Orlando Franklin is the injured Charger with 13:22 to play here in the first half. Boy, Orlando Franklin has been banged up so far this year. Talked about this offensive line. King Dunlap has had migraine issues. Barksdale is out today with a foot injury. We'll take a break and be back right after this. Is helped off the field very slowly, being checked out as he was walking off. He got banged up a little bit last week. It'll be 2nd down for the Chargers. That's Gates who steps up in the backfield. 8th play of this drive. Off the play fake. Rivers to throw to the end zone. He has Williams. He's got it. Touchdown San Diego. A 29-yard pass play, and there's the jolt the Chargers were looking for today.
Boy, this is really this is outstanding. He's going to split the double team, the cornerback and the free safety, Reggie Nelson on the inside, and that's David Amerson on the outside. This is a true double. Nelson is trying to get air under the ball. The corner should stay on top, but what a strike from Rivers. And just a great job of beating double coverage for a touchdown.
2nd touchdown of the year for Williams. Phillip Rivers now 6 of 8. That touchdown pass moves Rivers 1 step closer to Johnny Unitas on the all-time touchdown list. The point after by Lambeau is good. 7-3 San Diego. The first half has not been the issue, as Phillip Rivers shows right here. It took some time, but he finds Williams.
NFL on CBS is sponsored by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV. Toyota. Let's go places. and by Charles Schwab.
A lot of majestic scenery here in the Bay Area, including the Golden Gate Bridge. As we said, it's been clear as day throughout the course of the last few days. Williams with the touchdown pass from Phillip Rivers has given the Chargers a 7-3 lead. And Richard will just take a knee. All right, let's take a look at this touchdown pass by Phillip Rivers.
It's really tough because it's designed to put this safety in a bind. Emerson has this route deep all the way. But what Nelson is trying to do is, what's Antonio Gates doing? If he goes vertical, he's mine. But once he breaks out, now I have to provide inside help. And once Rivers sees the hesitation from Nelson, he's just going to release it. And then the speed of Williams runs away from Emerson. But that's one of those things that Nelson is a bonus defender to give inside presence to make air go under the football. And the cornerback has to stay on top. That was just excellent execution by the Charger offense.
Yeah, great recognition by Rivers, who Ken Wisenhunt said doesn't get enough credit for what he's done this year for the Chargers. He told us that yesterday. He said, listen, Phillip Rivers is great for the game with everything that he does. And you just saw that touchdown pass as Cooper makes another reception. Phillip Rivers not only studies, but is also...
You think he studies?
I think he established that early, and he's never looked back.
I think he just wings it.
There's Ken Wisenhunt. Second down for the Raiders, down 7-3. Second and 3, Carr, 9 of 15. Started 1 of 5. He's now 8 of his last 10. Off the play fake, he dumps it off to Washington. Washington is slowed by Melvin Ingram, but still carries him. The ball came loose.
The ruling on the field is down by contact.
That he's down by
Third
contact.
down, Oakland.
All right, so Derek Carr has been under pressure here today.
At the start of the game, I thought San Diego did a good job of just getting after him and forcing things to happen a lot faster than they wanted to and put him in a position to make some early mistakes. But here's what I love. As much as that the first quarter and the first drive played itself out, he came back on fire. And he was 5 for 5 on that drive, led them down there to get in close. So he shows the ability to overcome that early adversity and that pressure.
That was part of Arch's angles, one of the 3 keys to this afternoon's game, and one of the main keys for the Chargers defense. On third down, Olawale, and he is rumbling up to cross the 40 out to midfield. Dexter McCoyle eventually makes the tackle, 17-yard gain. Well, it's good to have a fullback with this size.
Up the field here, and a great
Number
block
79.
right there just seals it. Melvin Ingram goes upfield, and you see the great block on Corey Liuget, and that's open field running for the fullback. They are not afraid to give him the football in 3rd and short, and that was a gaping hole on the left side.
There's Kirkwood, who we were told would be used with the tight ends being down today. Smith and Walford as an extra blocker, and he is an extra man on the offensive line. It'll be first down for midfield. There's Kirkland. And the handoff is given to Richard, and Richard bursts inside the 45 to the 44. Steve Williams makes the tackle for the Chargers.
Yeah, Osemele and Donald Penn on the left side. And you go back to their last drive, I think one of the things that settled this offense down was their ability to run the football and really keep the Chargers defense off balance. So if they can continue to run the football this way and then open things up for the receivers on the perimeter, it's going to be tough to stop this in this game for the Chargers.
And again, they're doing this without Latavius Murray, the 4th-year pro out of Central Florida, who's out with a toe injury. He was in a boot at camp at practice on Friday. Second down again. Here's Richard, and Richard is stopped behind the line of scrimmage. Joey Bosa. It's his first tackle for a loss.
I think this is why they drafted him. This up and under move. Swim, use his hands, get inside. Kirkland. You saw that almost every Saturday at Ohio State. He can get to the quarterback, but his presence in the run game showing that quickness, it's a great move by the rookie.
Asked John Pagano yesterday, what do you expect from Joey Bosa? He said 6 sacks, so that would be great. He is on a pitch count today. It's third down for Carr. Carr steps up in the pocket, breaks away from one defender, has Cooper middle of the field. And Cooper's down inside the 25. Williams makes the tackle. McCoyle was there as well. 21-yard gain.
We saw what he did on the first play, and now Bosa gets a chance to run the hoop, and he almost gets by there. He gets a hand on Carr, but look at the pocket awareness for Carr. He's going to the right side. He's under pressure. Beautiful route by Cooper to beat Williams to the inside, and then they dart across the middle.
Derek Carr said that he knew as soon as he met Amari Cooper that he was going to be special. He said he kept calling him before last year to go to a local park and run routes, even though he was a rookie just coming in. It'll be first down from just outside the 25. Here's Richard. Richard inside the 20 to the 19-yard line. I'll tell you, this is the first time we're seeing him in person. He's got some moves, Richard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, out of the backfield, he is terrific. We've already seen that early on their first drive of the game, isolated on linebackers, but he does bring them that open field excitement. And I tell you, doing a good job of feeling the blockers and using his vision. A lot to be excited about this backfield.
Here's Carr, who lost it to the far side of the field. A flag comes in. The catch is made. Jatavis Brown was in on coverage on Washington, and what a move by Washington to get free. They're going to say incomplete, but it will be pass interference.
There's confusion from the Chargers on defense, and they weren't quite sure who was supposed to go out and cover Washington.
Yeah, Derek Carr saw that, and he wanted the football snapped immediately. Here's Gene Steratore.
Pass interference. Defense, number 57. Spotted a foul, automatic.
It was eventually Jatavis Brown who was called for the pass interference that came out.
Yeah, you can see Washington is up here, and you see everybody pointing, trying to get Brown out to the outside. I think this was supposed to be a quick screen, but then they adjusted it and saw that there was nobody covering the deep fade, and Brown had no choice but to interfere with the pass.
Olawale is now in the backfield. It'll be first and goal inside the 10. First time they were inside the 10, the Chargers held the Raiders to a field goal attempt. Carr looking left, lofts it left for Cooper, and Cooper incomplete. He again made the catch. Stevie Williams was on him, but he was out of bounds.
This is a tight space to get the ball in. Seems like Williams arrived maybe a hair early, never turned and looked for the ball, but again, it's a great effort by Carr and Cooper. You see the right toe out of bounds, so that's not going to be a touchdown.
Think you got away with pass interference there? You okay with a no call?
Oh, I think it's tight. I think you can make a case for pass interference. Never looked for the football. He arrived there just a bit early.
Second and goal, awkward handoff to Washington, but he's able to get it, and he might have gotten a yard. Craig Mager comes up to make the tackle. Corey Toomer was there as well. Amari Cooper still looking for his first touchdown reception. He's had 2 catches today, and he's been ruled out of bounds.
Well, they're trying to feed him. They're trying to, because they understand the matchup. Casey Hayward is playing on Michael Crabtree, so you say, hey, Cooper should be able to beat that coverage, and they've gotten close, but they've just run out of room on the sideline. Wouldn't be surprised if number 10 or number 15 gets his number called here.
That's Crabtree, who's on the near side. Play clock is down 5. Carr looking, throws to Crabtree and hit him right in the helmet. There's some traffic there.
I don't think Crabtree expected this, because I believe it was Jatavis Brown was inside. Yeah, he could see number 57 coming in there with the presence. Had no idea that that ball was coming.
Well, again, the third time into the red zone for the Raiders, and it'll be the third field goal attempt of the day. Janikowski has made a 20-yarder. He's missed a 50-yarder. This will be a 26-yard field goal attempt. There's really no breeze whatsoever to affect the kick, and Janikowski drills it. 7-6. It's a 1-point lead for the Chargers when we come back. The 10-yard line for the Raiders, and they've had to settle for 2 field goals for Janikowski. He's now 13th most in NFL history. I think the cool thing is that he's tied with Jan Stenerud. I mean, we're doing a little history lesson here in the National Football League.
Oh, man, that's a little before my time, isn't it?
Janikowski playing his 257th career game. He has missed a field goal from 50 yards today.
Sometimes I wish Janikowski was in Denver.
Just to see how far the football would go.
Absolutely.
Chargers will get the ball on the 25-yard line. Week 5 continues with Sunday Night Football on NBC and Monday Night Football on ESPN. Then Week 6 kicks off with Thursday Night Football on CBS, NFL Network, and streaming on Twitter. Chargers and the Broncos. Chargers, they're up 7-3. Now, this is coming into today's games. It doesn't include what the Patriots have done today and the Eagles and so on. But the Chargers have led during more game time than anybody else in the National Football League. It hasn't been the first 3 quarters that's been the issue.
It's been amazing, and then it just seems like everything at once. Offense, defense, and special teams disappears for a few series.
Hunter Henry in motion behind the line of scrimmage. And flags come in. It looked like the Raiders may have jumped. Raiders have been besieged with penalties so far in this first half. And it's going to be another 5 yards. They've already marked the ball off up to the 30-yard line. Gene Steratore is chatting for a while. It looks like he's communicating with someone from the crew.
False start. Offense number 75.
Wow.
It's a 5-yard penalty, first down.
All right, so move the football back. Chris Hairston is being called for the penalty. And Mike McCoy wants an explanation.
This is another extremely subtle 75. Just a tiny little flinch right there at the end. I don't know. I thought Oakland was already in the neutral zone. That is a extremely tight call.
It's been a point of emphasis, those sudden movements, more by the center and the quarterback this year in the National Football League. We've seen it twice, though, today. First down and 15. Rivers off the play fake, steps up in the pocket, dancing around, throws on the run. Benjamin has it, and Benjamin curls back for a first down and more. He can run, and he's deep inside Raiders territory. Reggie Nelson eventually knocked him out of bounds.
Well, here's what speed does. When a guy like Benjamin comes on the field, it forces a defensive back to get out of his pedal, and then he just snaps off the route to the outside. But once the receiver catches the ball, you've got to make sure you make that angle. You see Benjamin snap it off to the outside. Emerson is in a place now where he can make the tackle, but he goes to the inside shoulder instead of the outside shoulder, and now Benjamin is off to the races.
Well, it's a 54-yard gain. They've marked him out of bounds at the 26, and Benjamin was part of the conversation this week because he fumbled at the end of last week's game, and he was essentially untouched when he fumbled the football.
It was a strange play, to say the least, and pretty unbelievable that happened.
Well, Mike McCoy
Would
is
the
wondering.
play clock operator please set the play clock to 20 seconds? It inadvertently stopped for 4 or 5 seconds, so set the play clock to 20. Thank you.
All right, so Gene Steratore says let's start this at 20.
Well, big plays again today. We saw Sean Smith make the interception on one attempt to go deep over the middle. But so far in the last 2 drives, it's been big plays from Rivers and this wide receiving crew taking advantage of that secondary.
Gordon in the backfield. McGrath and Henry are both in. And the handoff goes to McCluster. And McCluster is stood up by Joseph after a gain of 1. Let's check in with Amanda. She has an injury update. Amanda?
Yeah, guys, Orlando Franklin, we saw him limp off the field. He went back, and they double-wrapped his right ankle and then put a full knee brace on his right knee. He tested it out, said he was good to go, and he's back in the game.
Arch, have you ever played with a full knee brace in any of your NFL games?
If a DB goes out there with a knee brace, expect a lot of action, Tom. A lot of action.
A little different than an offensive lineman.
They can get away with it down low, but not up high.
Second down and 9. And the handoff is given to Gordon. And Gordon is stopped inside the 25. That's Carl Joseph, the rookie from West Virginia, the Bob Sanders type strong safety who makes the tackle.
This is a big time play, big time tackle at linebacker depth. And they feel so happy that they got him in the lineup. He can do so much. He can play the pass. He can play man-to-man coverage. He's got to make a big play here on 3rd down to try and get off the field.
Crowd is getting behind the defense of the Raiders. They need to get to the 16 for a 1st down. Rivers underneath has Williams. Williams is stopped short of the 1st down marker at the 17. David Emerson makes the tackle. Boy, Philip Rivers not happy with, I guess, the route at the end for Williams. He says, get upfield.
Well, remember last week they had miscommunication at the end of the game on a skinny post where they could have taken advantage of the defense, but I like the Oakland Raider defense right there. Playing fast, making plays, getting off the field. Emerson coming up, slicing the outside leg of Williams. It's well done in the high red zone.
Well, the fiery Philip Rivers will watch this 36-yard field goal attempt by Lambeau from the sidelines, and it is good. The Chargers up 10-6. Rivers wanted more, but he's got a 4-point lead.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. And by Wendy's new grilled chicken sandwich.
Back here in Oakland on a beautiful day for football. There is a DJ Fluker who was getting a mouthful from Philip Rivers. He was heated after that play, not only at Fluker but also at Williams for not getting the 1st down.
Yep. I don't know. I wish I could read lips, but that's not my specialty.
Richard will watch this one come down, and he will take a knee 5 yards deep. Coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report, join JB, Tony, Bart, Boomer, and Coach Cower for all the latest NFL scores and highlights, as well as a preview of Thursday Night Football on CBS and the NFL Network. That's all coming up on the Verizon Halftime Reports. All right, so now the Raiders down by 4 as Rivers has calmed down a little bit. What hasn't worked for them in the red zone so far today?
Well, I think it's evident. I think they're trying to force the ball to Cooper a little bit too much. They know they like that matchup, but I feel like if they do get in that area again, that they just have to run more of their offense and do what they've been doing on that drive instead of trying to force the ball to Cooper.
That's Johnny Holton in motion on 1st down from the 25. Carr try to set something up, and he does for Richard, and Richard is stopped by Kyle Emanuel. Amari Cooper has made some receptions here today and has looked very athletic.
Crabtree has been silent, but you can see, they have great chemistry. They showed great chemistry last year, and I think they understand that, they want to get him going a little bit. He's such a great talent. He's got such great athletic ability and his speed and everything he can do with the ball. I think they're just trying to find ways to get him the ball, to get some excitement, to get just some good vibes in the offense.
Yeah, we talked to Michael Crabtree on Friday, and we asked him about Amari. He said he has so much talent, he can pretty much do everything, and he's learning something new every day. Handoff goes to Washington, and Washington is stopped by Corey Liuget. Let's check in with Amanda. She has another injury update. Amanda?
Yeah, guys, rookie guard Vidal Alexander taken to the locker room. He's still in there currently. It is an ankle injury. They would not specify which ankle. His return is questionable.
All right, Amanda, we'll keep an eye on that. We talked about Alexander, how good he's been with the run because of his days at LSU, and they were predominantly a run offense team.
Well, they have had a lot of problems at right tackle. Austin Howard now, number 77, comes in for Alexander, but that position has been a tough go so far this year.
Yeah, Howard has been dealing with an ankle injury. Here's Carr, and his pass is incomplete. Crabtree now has dropped 2, one off his face mask, and that one right off his hands. That is something that you don't often see.
Well, the first one, it didn't look like he was aware of it. But this one is just uncharacteristic. They say he's got some of the best hands in the National Football League, but just a lapse of concentration right there, and one that you got to have.
Casey Hayward talked about that, the cornerback for the Chargers, how good his hands are. Here's Marquette King on the punt for the first time. He had 8 punts last week, and he's got a big leg. McCluster will call for the fair catch, and it goes out of bounds at the 23-yard line. See what everybody is laughing about. Kevin Can Wait is TV's #1 new comedy. Kevin James stars tomorrow after The Big Bang Theory. Only CBS. Well, the San Diego Chargers in the first half, we said the first half hasn't been the issue. 89 points in the first half, which is most in the National Football League. And obviously they're feeling it a little bit. Mike McCoy told us yesterday, he said, we didn't really talk about the losses in the fourth quarter because the players know. They know what's been happening. Rivers out of the shotgun. 8 of 10 so far, 123 yards and a touchdown. Inside handoff is given to Gordon, and Gordon lowers his shoulder and gets almost 10. Perry Riley Jr. makes the tackle. Reggie Nelson was there as well.
Orlando Franklin, the double team with Franklin and Slauson on the defensive tackle. A lot of movement right there, and I think, you know, one thing that you don't want to have is Melvin Gordon not breaking stride at the line of scrimmage.
It was a gain of 9, but he stopped behind the line of scrimmage, but a flag comes in. Perry Riley Jr. makes the tackle. Looked like it was thrown toward the area of the Chargers receivers. Benjamin and Inman.
Personal foul, crackback block, offense number 15, 15-yard penalty, replay second down.
Yeah, so it's Dontrell Inman. He was working against DJ Hayden.
Here it is. Hayden's going to come inside, and you're going to see Inman go low and get to his knees.
Well, it didn't really affect Hayden, but they are keeping an eye on that this year in the National Football League. 2:02 to play. And Phillip Rivers is not able to get the play off
the 2-minute warning.
Before the 2-minute warning. 10-6, Chargers on top with the football when we come back. The Chargers with the football on top by 4. We're at the 2-minute warning. It's 2nd down and 16 for Mike McCoy's squad, and they're up by 4.
That was a huge penalty. Now 2nd and long, backed up, and you're facing 2nd and long. Got to be careful here.
Pressure looks like it's coming from the middle, and Phillip Rivers sees it. Play clock down to 4. And Rivers going long, middle of the field, and it's incomplete. Sean Smith was covering Benjamin.
Well, cross blitz inside, and Melvin Gordon comes up and does a good job in pass protection. Raiders should have an extra guy, but because of the pass pro, it gave Rivers a chance to see one-on-one coverage, but heck of a pass breakup outside by Smith. This has been a big play offense today. Anytime they've had to drive the ball or run the ball, they haven't been able to pick up first downs.
7 carries for 19 yards on the ground. That's Henry in motion behind the line of scrimmage. On 3rd down and long, Rivers sets up and lets it fly, looking for Inman, and it's intercepted at the 35-yard line. Carl Joseph, the rookie, and he's got room to run, and Inman comes from behind to take him down. Second interception of the day for the Raiders. 3rd turnover overall for the Chargers. Phillip Rivers just let this one fly. And the Raiders will have excellent field position with 2 timeouts left. Rivers in the pocket, lets it fly, and Joseph his first NFL interception. Report. Join JB, Tony, Bart, Boomer, and Coach Cower for all the latest NFL scores and highlights, as well as a preview of Thursday Night Football on CBS and the NFL Network. That's all coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report. All right, if you're Phillip Rivers, you're probably thinking it was a 47-yard pass, 55 in the air, but 47-yard pass, it's like a punt. But I don't know if he thought about the return being 31 yards, or 21 yards.
I feel a lot better about my punt team being out there and forcing the return rather than giving them a free 21 yards.
Meanwhile, the Raiders have 2 timeouts left. Carr is under pressure. He's trying to get away from his own man, and he is nailed down. And he is was close to Janikowski's field goal range, but now with Joey Bosa being in on the sack, he's down to the 44 of the Raiders.
Well, this is a pretty unbelievable game. You're going to see Melvin Ingram come here and take up 2 players, and they're going to wrap from the other side. That's just an excellent push, caving the ball and getting to Derek Carr. He's got to get rid of that ball. That is a major sack now.
Well, that is part of what his maturation has been that they've liked so much, but not there. Here's Richard on the screen, and he gets up to the 47-yard line. Steve Williams makes the tackle. Still 2 timeouts left, 50 seconds to play. They got a big leg in Sebastian Janikowski, who has the most 50-yard field goals or more in NFL history.
Yeah, but you got a big third down here, and it's third and, what, about 17, 18 yards. Any way you cut it, that is a big mistake for Carr. He should have got rid of that ball.
Well, and this is the 7th play the Raiders have run in this half behind the original line of scrimmage. So 7th play behind the chains. And here's Carr, middle of the field, pass is complete to Richard. Richard makes one man miss, and that is a huge extra handful of yards. Still 2 timeouts left, and they're using them.
I think they're going to be content right here to kick the field goal, and they're going to run the clock out to make sure that San Diego doesn't have a chance for a kickoff return and make this the last play of the half.
Yeah, Jack Del Rio is in the ear of the official, so he does use the timeout. He had 2 left.
Second charge timeout, Oakland.
So it will be 4th down. So there was no reason to rush because they weren't going to go for it on 4th down. They were going to go for the field goal attempts.
You always want to run it down to about 3-4 seconds, because then you know after the kick there's no chance of having to go out there and put your kickoff coverage team on the field.
All right, so this is not a gimme. You know, this is a 56-yard field goal attempt by Sebastian Janikowski. He's missed 1 from 50 today. John Kondo is the long snapper. Marquette King is the holder, and now the Chargers will use a timeout.
San Diego, a 30-second timeout.
You know, the other thing, too, is this field, we talked about how great it looks. You know, with the A's season being over, Jack Del Rio said, I'm thankful for no Oakland postseason, even though I would have rooted for the A's.
Right.
But instead of kicking on what would be the infield on a baseball diamond, he's kicking on grass. And we said before, we walked the grass. Clay Wood and his crew did a fantastic job getting this field ready for this ball game. So here we go, 56-yard field goal attempt. Good snap, good hold, kick is on its way, end over end, it is good. Well, he's not the best in NFL history from beyond 50 yards for nothing. It'll be a 1-point lead for the Chargers as we go into the half. The Chargers deferred after winning the toss, so they will get the football to begin the second half. That was a very entertaining first half, and the Raiders did not convert inside the 10. They had to settle for 3 field goals in this first half, but still they're within 1. And for the Chargers, it's not a big deal that they have the lead. Let's check in with Amanda, who's with head coach Jack Del Rio.
Coach, your offense has been so good in the red zone all season long. How do you get back to that in the second half?
Do the same things we did to be good in the first place. You know, execution is what it's all about. We had a couple opportunities today and haven't been able to finish them, and we've got 30 more minutes of football. We need to come out and do well in the second half.
Derek Carr under maybe the most pressure we've seen all season. How do we kind of get him settled down for the second half?
Yeah, well, we've got to block better and we've got to make quicker decisions. So it goes hand in hand, you know, with the offensive line, the design, and the quarterback, and we've got to do a better job.
All right, thank you, Coach. Back to you guys.
All right, Amanda, thank you. That's the end of the first half. San Diego 10, Oakland 9. We'll be back with the Verizon Halftime Report after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. we get set to begin the third quarter. San Diego will get the football to start the second half. Let's take a look at who you are loving, presented by McDonald's. All right, so this is a 29-yard touchdown pass from Phillip Rivers to Williams. This is the only touchdown of the first half for the Chargers. They had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions for Phillip Rivers, but they have the lead and will get the football to begin the second half.
Well, I think when you look at the San Diego Chargers, they've been thriving on big plays, and they've tried to push the ball down the field, and that's where some of their interceptions have come. They're just not efficient right now. They only have 19 plays to Oakland's 38 plays, only 1 for 5 on third down, and have not been able to run the football. So they have to find some sort of a rhythm and balance in the second half.
All right, now for the Raiders, what are your thoughts on what Oakland's done so far?
Well, I've liked some of the things they've done. Obviously, the number one stat is their red zone offense. Coming into this game, the best in football. 3 times today, only 9 points. They have to do a better job of just running their offense. I feel like they're forcing the ball to Amari Cooper a little bit too much. If they just run their offense, they should be fine.
All right, we mentioned San Diego gets the football to begin the second half, up by 1. Let's check in with Amanda, who talked to Mike McCoy. What did Mike have to say, Amanda?
Yeah, guys, when I asked Mike what they had to improve upon from the first half, he said we have got to eliminate those turnovers. When I asked him specifically into the second half, how do you close out this game? He said, if we do our jobs, we will get the job done, guys.
Well, finishing has been such a big part of the conversation this week for San Diego because, as we've mentioned, they've been a very good first half team. They've actually been a very good third quarter team. It's been the fourth quarter in the waning minutes that have caused them the most problems, and that's why they're 1-3. Phillip Rivers under center, off the play fake, and he is under pressure, loses the football. It's kicked around and finally recovered by San Diego. Chris Hairston fell on top of it. Stacy McGee came into the back pocket of Phillip Rivers.
And number 92 on the left side of your screen comes in. You see his hand on the ground. Just a power rush, arm over, inside move, gets to Rivers. Absolutely no chance. And I think, Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin get a lot of attention. That's one place they have to get better is their inside pass rush by the down lineman. Excellent start to the third quarter.
Yeah, Derek Watt tried to recover for San Diego. It squirted out. 23 consecutive games now where Rivers has been sacked. And here is the tight ends. Hunter Henry into the open field. His first reception of the day. He's down to the 20-yard line, and Sean Smith tracked him down. How big has Henry been the last few weeks?
An assignment error, confusion. They drop Henry. And the fact that, look how far he runs the football before an Oakland Raider touches him down the field. This is a tight end. This isn't Travis Benjamin with 4.3 speed. The fact that he ran for 30 yards before somebody attempting to tackle him is really unacceptable as a defense.
Well, see what he's done his last 2 games. 9 catches. That's number 10. That was a 59-yard game. The second-round pick out of Arkansas. He's in motion again. He's catching his breath. And the handoff is given to Gordon, and Gordon doesn't find much. He cuts back outside, and he's tracked down by Perry Riley Jr. after a gain of maybe 3 on the play.
It has to be a sigh of relief for the Chargers. Remember last week in the third quarter, the way they came out? I mean, you could kind of tell that the way they started the third quarter kind of set the tone for the entire rest of the second half. But a big play by Henry to get them down the field, and now inside the 20-yard line.
Second down and 7. 3 receivers to the top. And now Gordon shifts from one side to the other next to Rivers. Rivers looking right, dumps it off left. He has Gordon, and Gordon has some room, and he's going to coast it to the end zone. Touchdown, San Diego. It's an 18-yard pass play. And Melvin Gordon continues to be a touchdown machine for the Chargers.
They're going to drop Reggie Nelson in the box on the right side, number 27. And then Orlando Franklin, number 74, gets him to the edge. There's nobody to force Gordon back inside to the defense. And terrific way to start that third quarter. The San Diego Chargers punch it in for 6.
Well, that's the first receiving touchdown of the year for Gordon, but it's his 7th overall. And Philip Rivers is now tied with Johnny Unitas for 10th most touchdown passes in NFL history. The point after is good. It's a nice way to start the second half if you're the San Diego Chargers. Certainly in need of a win, and certainly in need of a little relief.
By NFL Productions for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the consent of NFL Productions is prohibited.
Well, that's pretty good company considering where Philip Rivers is right now. Tied for 10th all-time in touchdown passes. The all-time leader is Peyton Manning. He's going to be hard to catch. But Philip Rivers continues to climb, tied now with Johnny Unitas on that last touchdown pass to Gordon on the screen. And the Raiders will get it 1st and 10 from the 25. Next Sunday, the NFL on CBS dials up regional action. In one matchup, Andy Dalton and the Bengals size up Tom Brady and the Pats, while the Ravens roll with the Giants and the Chiefs challenge the Raiders. Check your local listings. By the way, we want to invite you to tune in. We'll be in Tennessee for the Browns and the Titans. It all begins with JB, Boomer, Tony, Coach, and Bart on the NFL Today. Now Derek Carr, after the first half, he was 14 of 23, 150 yards. Titans picked up a big win today against Miami. Cleveland unfortunately ran into Tom Brady and the Patriots. Michael Rivera in motion, lines up on the right side of the offensive line, and Carr quick drop, and his pass is incomplete, intended for Crabtree. Let's check in with JB and Boomer for an update in New York.
What is happening in Dallas?
I'll tell you what, the Bengals ran into Ezekiel Elliott. This is a 60-yard TD run, his second of the day. He's run the ball 10 times for 128 yards. The Cowboys are just absolutely running right through the Bengals, 28-0, middle of the third quarter.
Hey, Tom, Adam had that kind of speed as a player, too. Back to Tom McCarthy.
Oh, come on, man.
He could dance and he could run. We found a lot out about you today, Adam.
Well, maybe run. Certainly can't dance.
Second down and 10. Carr looking to throw near sideline for Crabtree, and he let him a little bit too much. Crabtree a little frustrated. Casey Hayward in on the coverage.
The chemistry that we've seen here in the first 4 games, almost non-existent between Carr and Crabtree. And I thought Carr let this ball go a little bit late. This is a long developing route. You see that little hitch? Because of that hitch, Crabtree runs out of room, and you have an incomplete pass.
So now a third down. Has 3 receivers to the near side. 4 of 9 on third down so far. This is the first one of this half. And Carr throws near side and finally does have Crabtree. Chargers are saying he was not in bounds, but they're going to say that's a catch, and he's right at the first down marker. This all depends on the spot, but it looks like he has it.
Yeah, this is right there on the sideline. Good tight coverage by Casey Hayward.
Number 79.
Oh, he dragged that foot. That's a good call. And then put it down again.
That's good footwork. That's a tough grab.
He's got such good hands. He's so athletic. Mike McCoy has the challenge flag in his hand. He's talking to the folks up here. His coaches up here. They're going to say, no, that was a good catch, and it looked that way. Derek Carr now 15 of 26. Play clock down to 1. He quickly gets it off. Rolls the pocket, and he's just going to throw it away. He can run if he needs to. Well, Derek Carr and Michael Crabtree, this is where he said he learned to trust Michael Crabtree.
He said that, he's a perfectionist, and he wants to make sure every throw is in the perfect location. And he said in that game, Crabtree went up to him and said, hey, man, just throw it in my area. Don't worry about it. Just throw it to me. And he went back there. He did it. It worked out. And then he said, all right, this is my guy. I know I can throw the ball to him and not worry about being a perfectionist. And you've seen the result.
Little 10-yard pass is what sets up this relationship. It's second down and 10. Pressure's coming. Carr lets it fly. He's got a man wide open. It's Amari Cooper into the open field. Touchdown Raiders! His first of the year. 64 yards. They said it was only a matter of time.
Great pressure inside. Melvin Ingram comes in, puts a shot on Carr. Not anything fancy, just a little stutter and a go. Bad eye discipline by the safety, Adrian Phillips. And Carr stands in there and fires it downfield and answers with a big play of his own.
Well, his first touchdown reception since December of last year. Now Janikowski on for the point after. And his point after is good. This is a one-point game. 11:25 to play, third quarter. Derek Carr finds Amari Cooper for the first time this season.
NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. And by Ram Trucks, America's longest lasting pickups.
Well, this is Fleet Week in the Bay Area, and the Blue Angels are celebrating their 70th anniversary. We've been hearing them throughout the course of the last couple of days. Amari Cooper with a touchdown reception has pulled the Raiders to within one, and now McCluster will try to return it from the 6. And McCluster slips through a little opening up to the 24-yard line. Let's check in with Amanda. What's going on the Oakland sideline, Amanda?
Hey, guys, after that last touchdown, Derek Carr came over and high-fived almost every single guy on this bench. When we spoke to Jack Del Rio earlier in the week, he said that's the kind of leadership that Carr has been bringing to this team. It's been on the field and off the field. He said Carr knows that everybody is looking to him. What he feels emotionally trickles down to the rest of the team. So Carr getting everybody pumped up, encouraging everybody, being the leader that he is on and off the field.
Yeah, they said when Charles Woodson retired last year, somebody needed to step up, and they said a whole host of guys have stepped up. So now Phillip Rivers is looking to step up with a one-point lead. About 4 minutes into the second half, Rivers looking to throw, has plenty of time, middle of the field, and his pass is caught. There's a flag down, but Williams makes the reception, and it's taken down at the 25-yard line. That is a gain of 50 yards, a beautifully thrown football by Phillip Rivers.
Well, they are in a tack mode right now in the second half, going after this secondary and the deep ball.
Prior to the pass, holding defense number 21. The penalty is declined, the result of the play. First down.
Well, condensed formation, you're going to see at the top of the screen, Sean Smith in press coverage. And I believe that's Reggie Nelson, the free safety in the middle of the field. He gets frozen just a little bit and then allows Williams to get behind the free safety. And that's one of those things that the free safety has to be there and have a presence to give his corner deep down the field like that. Reggie Nelson got frozen.
50-yard gain. Here's Gordon following the block of his fullback, Derek Watt. He gets along the outside down toward the 5, and he's knocked out of bounds at the 1-yard line. Carl Joseph makes the tackle. Gain of 24 yards.
Boy, you called it. Not only Derek Watt, but Hunter Henry gets the first block, and then downfield, Watt chops down Reggie Nelson trying to run the alley, and that's what springs Melvin Gordon.
That's a big block for Watt, who was Gordon's teammate, because, you know, he's been thrown into the fire and is still adjusting to the NFL.
He is. He's had some good plays and some bad plays, but
he's a rookie.
Certainly that one does have to feel good to spring your teammate for a big run.
Phillip Rivers needs to use a timeout. They did add Kenny Wiggins as an extra lineman. Jack Del Rio talking to Emerson, who was part of that coverage. So Rivers needs to use a timeout. Saturday, the SEC on CBS rocks the best game for the best conference. Isn't that the truth? This time, Jalen Hurts and the Crimson Tide take on Joshua Dobbs and the Volunteers. It all jumps off with college football today. Well, if you've watched the Tennessee Volunteers on our air over the last couple of weeks, they have had some spectacular games. Amari Cooper will not be rooting for Tennessee. He'll be rooting for Alabama. And he's had himself a big day. 6 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown, his first of the year. All right, so Rivers off the timeout. They finally have the personnel that he wanted. It'll be first and goal from the 1-yard line. Usually this is Melvin Gordon territory for the Chargers, right?
They do like to run Gordon up inside.
Gordon will line up behind Sean McGrath. Or excuse me, Hunter Henry, and Henry splits out next to McGrath.
So they like to read this. You see Gates going outside on a linebacker.
Gates, top of your screen. Rivers looks right, throws to the left side, touchdown, Hunter Henry. That's his second touchdown reception of the year, and that's a way to answer if you're the Chargers.
Well, they want to go to Gates at the top of the screen, but this works at the bottom because both defensive players are at the same level, and one of them gets picked, and that's why you see Henry wide open in the end zone.
Oh, 1-yard touchdown reception for Henry. Philip Rivers now slides past Johnny Unitas for touchdown passes. He has 3 TDs today. 3 offensive touchdowns in the very early going of the second half. All right, so this set it up. The long 50-yard pass play to Tyrell Williams. And then instead of running, they threw it to Hunter Henry for the score. Chance to do the Jacksonville game where the Chargers just picked apart the Jacksonville Jaguars. Philip Rivers is having that kind of day here today. Even with the interceptions, he is still amassing a lot of yards. And he has found the end zone on a handful of occasions today. And Richard is back deep to receive. Let's take a look at these two quarterbacks. I mean, we talk about the AFC West being a shootout division. We've got a little bit of a shootout going here.
I think so. Both of them they've had their moments. They've had some hot moments and they've had some cold moments. So far this third quarter, Philip Rivers has had 2 opportunities and has capitalized. Derek Carr, in his first opportunity, moved the offense down the field. Now he has another chance.
So the Raiders down by 8 with 10:10 to play. Remember, the Chargers defense has held Oakland to 3 field goals here today, which is a huge win for John Pagano's crew. Kirkland is in the backfield, and now he'll roll over to the left side of the offensive line.
Blue 80. What's up?
Play clock down to 5. Off the play fake, Carr rolls the pocket. And he's just going to throw it away. It'll be second down and 10 from the 25. With NFL Game Pass, watch the games you missed with condensed games in 45 minutes or the full broadcast version. Start a free trial today at NFL.com/Game Pass. It'll be second down and 10. Front for the Chargers. They have 5 men, including Kyle Emanuel, on the line of scrimmage. They've done a nice job pressuring Derek Carr here this afternoon. Little hitch and a little floater. It's caught. And it's a completed pass to the 42. Now that's Seth Roberts who makes the reception.
Seth Roberts has made some spectacular catches this season. This one is just a great adjustment in being on the same page of his quarterback, going up, adjusting his body to the backside, coming down with that catch. Well done.
Come on now. 5-3. Hey, check.
11 straight pass plays called for the Raiders. In motion is Holmes. The handoff goes to Washington, and Washington scampers up to the 46-yard line. It's a gain of 5. It'll be second down and 5. Jatavis Brown, the rookie out of Akron, makes the tackle. He's really stepped up for Manti Te'o. Te'o out with the torn AC or torn Achilles tendon. That's the thing. The Chargers have lost an impact player every week so far in this season.
I thought up until maybe that last drive, the San Diego secondary coming in here without 2 of their top corners.
Right.
They've done a pretty good job against this offense, but you cannot let number 89 get behind your defense.
Flowers and Verrett both out. Verrett out for the season with a partially torn ACL. He'll have surgery. The handoff again to Washington. He's got blockers. He's got a first down. Lowers his shoulder, keeps his feet moving down close to the 45. It looks like they're going to mark him down at the 47 where his knee hit. Steve Williams makes the tackle.
Beautiful cutback, beautiful blocking by the left tackle, Donald Penn, to kind of clear that thing out. The right side of the offensive line, shutting off the backside. Good vision, good cut. Raiders running the football quite well here today. I think they have to continue to stick with that to keep the Chargers defense off balance.
Bouchard 27 yards, Washington 16 yards. Carr steps up, dumps it off, has Washington out of the backfield. And Hayward makes the tackle close to the 40-yard line. He'll be about 3 yards shy of a first down. That's his 4th catch of the day.
You've seen some pretty good heat on Carr today, but just the subtle pocket movement, you know, sensing the outside pass rush, getting off the field, dumping it off, getting some positive yardage. This is a rhythm offense. You know, positive first down plays is what they thrive on. And you can't allow them to build up a head of steam and get going.
185!
The movement from the left side of the offensive line.
False start.
Assembly looked like
number
he jumped.
70. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Well, they curved the penalties a little bit in the 2nd quarter, the Raiders did.
Boy, that one hurts, though. You know, you're sitting there 2nd and 2. You had a great first down play. You're starting to get something going on offense. You know, you're trying to answer Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. And then you put yourself in a 2nd long.
So Carr out of the shotgun. 3 receivers to the near side, 2 to the far side. In motion is the speedy Holton. Carr throws left, has Washington out of the backfield, and Washington has a first down. And he gets inside the 35 to the 34. Craig Mager makes the tackle.
Well, this is what you cannot do. You cannot allow Derek Carr to just sit there with nobody around him and decide what he wants to do with the football and give him any option. Because if you allow him with the 3-step passing game, he will pick your defense apart. Again, got to find a way to disrupt him and move him off the mark, make him go to his 2nd and his 3rd option.
5 for 9 of the 2nd half. Derek Carr, 3rd-year pro out of Fresno State, credits his older brother David for a lot of his maturation. Not only physically, but also mentally as a quarterback in the National Football League. His pass is intercepted. Steve Williams makes the diving interception. They say he dropped it to the ground, so it'll be incomplete.
This is almost a great play. Tough play for a corner as a receiver is running away from you across the middle of the field, but that ball was behind Cooper, and that's what allowed Williams to undercut it.
Well, I guess he never had full control, Adam, is what they're saying.
So he has the catch there. He's going to the ground.
And he was bobbling it as he went to the ground, and the nose of the football hit the ground. It was moving.
Good play. Could have been a great play.
So it'll be 2nd down and 10. And this play is blown dead, I believe.
The play clock inadvertently did not reset. We had a football on the field. We are going to reset the play clock to 25 seconds, and it's 2nd down.
I was going to say, I believe that the play clock did not reset. Now, Mike McCoy is not happy with that. He's saying it was fine. We've got a chance to know Mike over the last several weeks, getting a chance to do a couple of Chargers games, and he realizes the pressure that he is under, that his coaching staff is under. He said, listen, you just got to go out and do your job. He knows there's whispers out there about his job security and how big a game this is for the franchise.
Game clock to 6:27. Thank you.
2nd down and 10. Carr drops back to pass, steps up in the pocket. He can run if he needs to, and he's going to try to run. And he is down at the 27-yard line. He's talking about the helmet, but, you know, he became a runner at that point.
Safety's playing way back, nobody downfield. He sees the linebackers take a deep drop. Oh no, he said, you see the face mask.
Oh, that's what he's saying.
That's
face
what he's
mask.
saying.
Yeah, because he became a runner, so if he's hitting the head, he's hitting the head, but you still can't grab the face mask.
Yeah, he wanted to get that face mask call, which would have been the correct call. And the officiating crew missed it.
3rd down and 3. Play clock is down to 3. Carr wants the football, and he just gets it off with 1 second left, and it's a false start against the Raiders.
False start. Offense number 70. 5-yard penalty. Third down.
Left guard Assembly just a tad early. A lot of false starts up front for Oakland. You would think that would happen or be a bigger problem on the road rather than being here at home. But some silly mistakes now, 3rd and long.
6th penalty of the game for the Raiders. Let's see if the Chargers defense once again can hold up. Carr out of the shotgun. Pass is complete. He's got his fullback, Olawale, and he is down to the 30-yard line. It's only a gain of 2. Toomer came in to make the tackle.
It just comes down to mistakes 2 times. One was a 2nd and short. They were able to overcome that somewhat. But then the false start when you have yourself in a 3rd and 1 or 2 or 3rd and 2 or 3. A big difference between that and 3rd and 7. You just can't have those types of mistakes and expect to be able to score points.
Well, this will be a 48-yard field goal attempt for Janikowski. He's been busy today. This one is good. 24-19, 4:41 to play here in the 3rd quarter. A lot of credit goes out to Mike McCoy's defense. Alma Mater, Hayward High, last night defeated San Lorenzo 53-0. He graduated in '81. He was an outstanding athlete. He went on to play football and baseball at USC. Bill Walsh is also an alum of Hayward High School. Both of these coaches are from the Bay Area. As McCluster will take a knee. All right, so Philip Rivers goes back to work. Let's take a look at what he has done in his last 10 pass attempts.
Yeah, he's been reaching into the throw deep section of his playbook. And I think based on results, he has had the turnovers and the interceptions. But when you have 3 pass plays of over 50 yards in 3.5 quarters of football, things are looking pretty good for your offense.
Does he need to get the running game going here a little bit, or is you content with the way they're using Gordon at this point?
I think when you have a lead going into the 4th quarter, running game has to be a factor in your offense to close out games.
Ken Wisenhunt kind of talked about that this week, how they had to run more. Here's the handoff to Gordon, and Gordon is able to stumble forward. Boy, if he kept his footwork going, he would have been into the open field. He only had Reggie Nelson there to stop him, but it's a gain of 9.
And I feel you, Reggie, because I know that feeling when you're a free safety and a running back just pops through that hole, and it's just you and him. So thank goodness that Gordon stumbled.
See the numbers for the Chargers, Ken Wisenhunt's crew. Ken seems very content to be back in San Diego working with his buddy Mike McCoy. 4:05 to play, 3rd quarter, 2nd down and 1. Henry in motion. The handoff to Gordon again, and Gordon has the 1st down, but he fumbled, and it's recovered by the Raiders. Carl Joseph recovers the fumble. He's got an interception today, and he's got a fumble recovery.
2 weeks in a row, critical moments. Melvin Gordon, big fumble last week in the 4th quarter. I believe that was Stacy McGee who came in there and raked the ball out. Just a big play. Joseph there to pick up the fumble. And I think when you even go back to last week against the Baltimore Ravens, it was a defensive turnover and special teams that gave them short fields to capitalize.
Well, they had a 13-point lead at this point. Here's Gordon. He fumbles last week against the New Orleans Saints. And then Travis Benjamin, nobody was there, but he still fumbled the football. And that's one of the ways the Chargers have blown these 4th quarter leads. Now, we're only in the 3rd quarter, but obviously that creeps into your mind when some of those mishaps happen.
It's self-destruction, and that's what it is.
Derek Carr under center. Here's the handoff to Richard, and Richard is stopped at the 35-yard line. It's a gain of 3.
I think that's what it really comes down to, Tom. It's just kind of a self-destructive program that the Chargers just can't seem to get off of. You know, I thought last week the 2 back-to-back fumbles were just unprecedented, and I couldn't understand how that could happen. But again, a chance you have a lead deep into the 3rd quarter and you fumble, give the Raiders great field position. It's unreal.
Well, we talk about Mike McCoy as he hears the whispers about his job security, and he realizes that a lot of it is out of his control. Some of it is obviously in the coaching staff's control. Here's Carr to run, and he's out of bounds with a first down. Mike McCoy has a big week. I mean, this is a huge game for the San Diego Chargers with a 1-3 record because they have today, and then they have Thursday against the Denver Broncos. And every head coach knows this. They understand that, it's a results-driven league.
What you have to fight against in this scenario is the here we go again.
Correct.
Right? You got to understand, look, you put the football on the ground. Defense has to stop the Raiders here. And we've got to be able to turn the page, and we can't let that bleed into the rest of the game.
And by the way, John Pagano's defense has been good in this ball game against the best red zone scoring team in the league. Olawale, the fullback, is stopped after a gain of 2. Casey Hayward came up to make the tackle with Kyle Emanuel.
A little interesting, they have Olawale back there as the single back and not Washington or Richard.
Well, again, they're playing without Latavius Murray and without Taiwan Jones.
I thought both of those rookie backs have shown some good things today in the run game, and very surprised that Olawale is the one that got the carry.
Yeah, Richard with 31 yards on the ground. Washington with 16. Carr to throw. Pumps right. Throws left. Passes complete left. Andre Holmes. And Holmes stopped about 3 yards shy of a first down. Well, Melvin Gordon's fumble has given the Raiders excellent field position. And he is hoping that the Chargers defense can stop the Raiders offense from getting into the end zone. Third down and 2. And thinking about the struggles that they've had to get into the end zone, this is a big play to try to keep this drive alive and not settle for a field goal. Play clock is down to 4. Richard is finally set.
You got to watch him out of the backfield.
Carr tried to set it up for him. He just throws it up and throws it out of bounds. And they have to settle for another field goal. Mebane was in his face. How about this? They're going to go for it on 4th down and 2. 4th and 3, it looks like.
Yeah, I think Jack Del Rio right now is trying to look for some way to get a spark, understanding that, look, we haven't found a way to punch this thing into the end zone yet today, and field goals may not get the job done. We can't expect the Chargers to give us another gift. And let's go out there and try and make it happen. We've been able to make those critical plays in the first 4 games of the season. Let's try and do it again.
Officially, it's 4th down and 2. They need to get to the 18-yard line. They're lofting it to the end zone for Crabtree. He's got it. Did he stay in bounds? And hold on, he did. Touchdown, Raiders. It's officially a 20-yard touchdown pass from Derek Carr to Michael Crabtree, his 5th touchdown reception of the year, set up by the fumble from Melvin Gordon.
At bottom of your screen, you can bank on it. Critical situation. Carr's going to go to Crabtree. Beautiful throw, beautiful catch for 2 players who had 0 chemistry early in the game. That grab couldn't have been any better or more clutch.
Well, you saw the hands of Crabtree. Now every scoring play is reviewed, whether he had control. It looked like he did and kept his feet in bounds. So now the Raiders will go for 2. DeAndre Washington is in the backfield. Carr wants the crowd to be quiet. Washington to his left. The pass is complete to the right. Amari Cooper for the 2-point conversion. Turnovers have been a big factor in today's game. Melvin Gordon fumbles for the 2nd straight week. The Raiders recover. Crabtree on 4th down scores the touchdown, and the Raiders take the lead. People affected by severe weather and other disasters need help now. To support those impacted by Hurricane Matthew, text Matthew to 90999. Each text is a $10 gift to American Red Cross Hurricane Relief. Well, Crabtree's got a little swagger left in him. A gutsy call on 4th down and a little more than 2. They're able to convert a 20-yard touchdown pass from Carr to Crabtree. And the Blue Angels right on cue, celebrating their 75th anniversary. They come rolling over the top of the stadium. McCluster coming up, will return it from inside the 2-yard line. And he is hit down at the 19-yard line. Excellent special teams. Jalek Calhoun. Now it's time for one of the best passers the NFL has seen, Philip Rivers, to come from behind, down by 3 with plenty of time left in this ball game, obviously.
Yeah, and I think this comes down to leadership. Philip Rivers, Matt Slauson, the leaders on that offensive line have to settle this football team down. Melvin Gordon has to put that fumble behind him, and they got to understand what they have to do now to answer that Raider touchdown.
First down and 10. Rivers steps up in the pocket. He's going down. A whole host of defenders led by Stacy McGee able to sack Philip Rivers.
You kind of saw this a little bit last week as well. The defensive line getting some energy after a big play, and that's the second time here in the last 2 series. McGee having an impact, forcing the fumble, and now getting pressure, sacking Rivers on first down, setting up a 2nd and long.
4 takeaways for the Raiders, 14 points off those turnovers. The waning seconds of the 3rd quarter. Rivers on 2nd down. Steps up, lets it fly, middle of the field, and it is dropped by Benjamin. He nearly ran under it because Joseph got turned around as the helper.
That's a dangerous pass. The DJ Hayden in great position, but also Carl Joseph playing center field. Probably should have came down with that interception, but Rivers continuing to be aggressive, attacking that Raiders secondary deep. Now 3rd and long, backed up. Tough place to be, especially with the crowd noise.
Chargers need to get to the 29 for a first down. Rivers rolls, throws on the run, and it is tipped and incomplete. It'll be 4th down with 6 seconds left. That's a big stop for the Raiders.
Well, it was all set up by first down. That big play, getting pressure and sacking Rivers and putting them in 2nd and 3rd and long in a predictable spot. One thing you don't want is Mack and Irvin and that defensive line to get into a pass rushing posture. And now the secondary knows you're going to pass the football, and there's not a lot of windows out there on the field.
This will be the first punt of the day for Drew Kaiser, the rookie from Texas A&M. And this is not a good punt. This is a terrible punt by the rookie. It goes out of bounds at the 32, 31-yard line of Oakland. It's the end of the 3rd quarter. We'll go to the 4th with Oakland up by 3. We'll return to Oakland after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Kansas City Chiefs, Drew Kaiser had a 17-yard punt late in that ball game that helped the Chiefs win it. Today, a 16-yard punt, and it looks like he may have hurt himself as he delivered that last kick. Something had to happen.
It completely came off his foot in a strange way. In the Kansas City game, it was more around midfield.
You're right.
Man, you punt the football, and it's not a punt, and the opposing team picks it up on the 33-yard line. Not good.
All right, last series for the Raiders, which resulted in the touchdown, they started at the 38. This time, they start at the 32. Off the play fake, quick toss to the near side for Richard, and Richard bumps his way down to the 21. He has a first down. Now, these two teams have really been involved in close games dating back to last year. For the Raiders, 15 games decided by 8 points or less, and the Chargers the same. The difference is that bottom number. The Raiders have won 9, the Chargers have won only 3.
It's pretty remarkable. Raiders this season have thrived in this situation. And we mentioned earlier, they're looking for a spark, they're looking for energy, and they've been able to capitalize, and that's why they've been able to win 3 games this year, to take advantage of other teams' mistakes.
And they've also talked about winning here at the Coliseum, 3-6 under Jack Del Rio, and Carr said it's important to reward the fans. Here's Washington. Washington down to the 15-yard line, a gain of 6. Second half possessions. Look at the field position. San Diego 38, San Diego 32 here. This is the last 4 leading up to this one.
It was great field position. One on a Bruce Irvin strip sack of Joe Flacco last week, and a big punt return that really allowed the Raiders 2 touchdowns and a chance to win that game against the Ravens.
Looks like Carr is checking at the line of scrimmage. Carr looking left, throws left, leaping attempt by Andre Holmes, and he gets it and stays in bounds. Craig Mager was in on the coverage. It'll be a first down for the Raiders.
I thought this was a tad late. Again, you're going to see just a little hitch. And I thought he could have hit him out of the break, but beautiful ball location, good foot control to come in bounds for the catch.
Andre Holmes, 50-year pro out of Hillsdale, a Division II school. Their nickname, the Chargers. Today he's playing against the Chargers. It'll be first and goal inside the 8. Red zone efficiency. You see the Raiders 0 for 2 today on these opportunities. Carr looking at the end zone, back of the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown Oakland. Flags come in. Now he may have been out of bounds and then came back in bounds, so that will be an incomplete pass.
Yeah, Cooper goes out of the back of the end zone, and he is not allowed to touch the ball first after you step out of bounds. You see the left foot. Pretty close.
It was pretty close. The left foot did go out, though. Gene Steratore conferring with the rest of the officiating crew. The back judge is Dino Paganelli. Looks like he's on the white right there, Arch.
Yep. Yep, you can see it.
It did look like McCoyle had an arm on him.
So that's the other question.
Yep. And that may be what they're talking about right now. This is taking a long time for the officials to decide. Boy, what
great throw and catch in the middle of the field.
Carr was hit too as he let it go. See, the hat goes off. Hats off all over the place.
Yeah, I'm just curious what the discussion is. If you're pushed out, you're allowed to come back in, but I don't believe that he was pushed out.
You think that was just incidental contact?
It has to be forcible push.
That's right.
Forced out of bounds.
See, we'll see it right here. McCoyle's 23, right there, hand on him. I mean, there's definitely contact.
The way I see it is pretty cut and dry.
You know, you played back there for the length of your career. I know you ran up on the line of scrimmage a lot of times. You surprised it's taken them this long to discuss it?
There's no telling. I'm not quite sure.
Well, here's the thing. If they rule it a score, they could review it. But it wouldn't matter at that point. Right? There's the arm, and right there's the foot. Yeah, so they've deemed him out of bounds, and they're just trying to figure out if he was pushed out of bounds. I don't know if you can say that he was pushed out of bounds on that spot. As we mentioned, if he's pushed out, he can be the first one to come back and make the catch.
It has to be pretty blatant.
I would
push
agree with that.
From the defensive player. You normally see this on the sideline when the defensive back is jamming the wide receiver and he tries to get an outside release. So the question is if Cooper went out on his own or not.
After a brief conversation, we have pass interference, defense number 23. The contact, which was airborne, put the receiver out. The ball was in the air by the official's judgment, which creates pass interference defense. It was also ruled an incomplete pass. So by rule, the ball will be placed at the 1 yard line, first and goal, Oakland.
Well, I have to admit, you could have called pass interference, but I didn't think that's what they were calling about.
Well, there's a lot to chew on right there. I think you got to question
what they were conferring.
Where's the incomplete? The ball was ruled incomplete, so that's the next question.
Yeah, see, I thought it was a completed pass. I mean, he has it there, and he goes to the ground holding on to it. It's still in his hands. Well, so they rule pass interference. I mean, obviously there were flags down, so they could have thought that the entire time. We're not privy to the conversation.
Not an income. That's surely a catch.
All right, so Steratore is talking to Jack Del Rio, and he throws the challenge flag down. He has to challenge it, I think, at this point, because it definitely was a catch.
Is challenging the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass. Timeout.
All right. After a brief conversation, we'll take a break. 12:54 to play in the fourth quarter. We'll be back after this.
NFL on CBS.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about right here. This is what's happening. Gene Steratore is under the hood. He's talking to the folks in New York. This is the play. Amari Cooper in the back of the end zone. McCoyle has his arm on him, and Cooper goes out of bounds. All right, so he comes up, makes the catch, has it, goes to the ground under full control. After talking for several minutes, the officials, after throwing the hat, there's the hat that goes down, they were saying that Cooper went out of bounds and then couldn't be the first to touch it. But then they conferred for a few moments and decided it was pass interference of McCoyle, but ruled the catch incomplete.
So the rule says that a receiver cannot go out of bounds on his own and be the first to touch it. But if he's pushed out of bounds by the defensive player, then he can come back and touch the football. Now, we normally see this on the sideline within 5 yards, so there's no question of pass interference. This is in the field of play, but because they say it's pass interference, now Cooper could come back and legally catch the ball. I don't think that's pass interference. I think you can see McCoyle, his arm isn't extended. He rests his elbow on him. He doesn't impede Cooper. I think I don't like the pass interference call.
All right, so Del Rio challenges, thinking it's a touchdown. Here's Gene Steratore.
The ruling on the field of an incomplete pass is confirmed. Although the receiver was knocked out of bounds with the football in the air, which is a foul for pass interference, he still must get 2 feet back in bounds to reestablish as an eligible receiver. The receiver that was knocked out by foul only gets 1 foot back in bounds. Therefore, the pass is incomplete. Oakland will be charged with a timeout in their first challenge.
All right.
It is first and goal, Oakland at the 1 yard line by rule on the pass interference.
Well, that's the key right there. Because it is pass interference in the end zone, it is first and goal from the 1 yard line. So the feet, establishing the feet in bounds before the catch. He definitely had it in the air, but did he establish himself in bounds with the 2 feet? That's what they said did not happen.
2 feet on grass.
On grass.
Now you're eligible. He started the
awfully
jump
close
before he established.
First and goal for the Raiders. Washington is the deep man. That's an offensive lineman in motion. The handoff goes to Olawale, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Oakland. Second touchdown run of the year for Olawale.
Big hole on the goal line. What a surge up front. Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson, Kelechi Osemele open it right up for the touchdown.
Now that was Feliciano, 76, who was in motion. You know, they're down a couple tight ends, the Raiders are. So that's why they use the lineman in that tight end spot in motion as an eligible receiver. Janikowski's point after is good. It's a 10-point Oakland lead with under 13 to play. Off the pass interference, it's an easy touchdown for Derek Carr and the Raiders.
NFL on CBS is sponsored by Pepsi. Every football moment deserves a celebration. Break out the Pepsi. Ford F-Series, the official truck of the NFL. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Jonathan Siegel, our producer, told us that he had a soft-shell crab sandwich the other day. I didn't realize he was filming them making his soft-shell crab sandwich in Fisherman's Wharf. Janikowski will tee it up at the 35-yard line. It's a 10-point deficit for the Chargers. Here comes McCluster running up from the 7. And McCluster getting back to the 25-yard line. Well, the San Diego Chargers have certainly had issues in the second half, more in the fourth quarter, but in the second half. Their differential is -41 in the second half. They've been outscored 97-56. These short fields, these last couple weeks in particular, are killing them.
It is. Self-destructive mistakes have been the problem. Turnovers on offense. Special teams certainly has played a role in multiple games this season. They started out the third quarter about as well as you could possibly ask for. There's still time left in this game.
Absolutely.
13, about 13 minutes left. And they've had a pretty good offensive day up until that last couple of drives.
That's Edmond in motion. Here's Gordon. And Gordon is stopped by Khalil Mack. Behind the line of scrimmage.
Beautifully done by Khalil Mack on the edge.
Tonight, artificial intelligence is already a big part of your life, even if you don't know it. But what's coming next, you need to see to believe. Plus, the big Hollywood star who didn't make it until he was 50 years old. Tonight on 60 Minutes, only CBS. Along with Adam Archuleta. I'm Tom McCarthy. Amanda Balionis has been down on the sidelines for us today. It'll be second down. Pass is complete to Benjamin, out of bounds after a first down. Carl Joseph was in on the coverage.
Boy, what a much needed play for the offense after getting, a 1-yard loss on first down. The way the last two series have gone, just to get something positive, a speed out to Benjamin, picking up the first down and gives them something to work with.
3 receptions now for Benjamin, 262 yards for Rivers. That's Henry in motion. Play clock down to 2. Off the play fake. Rivers looking to throw. Looks to the far side for Inman. He can't hang on. It may have been tipped by the eraser Reggie Nelson. Let's go to New York with an update with JB and Boomer.
Denver knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten.
That's right. Denver kicker Brandon McManus attempts an onside kick. It is recovered by the Falcons' Levine Toilolo. Falcons go on to win 23-16.
Back to Tom McCarthy.
All right, JB, that's an important score for the Raiders at this point because the Raiders are 3-1. Actually, it's an important score for anybody in the AFC West. Right now, what's important for the Chargers, they're down by 10 with 11:27 to play here in the fourth quarter. Rivers facing a second down and long. He's hit as he throws. Pass is complete. That is a diving grab by Hunter Henry. One rookie against another, a gain of 14.
Well, this all starts up front, pass protection, all-out blitz, both linebackers inside. Gordon steps up, gives Rivers a pocket, and what a clutch grab by Henry, working on Joseph. Joseph in great position, but Henry at the top of the route was able to get separation.
Henry continues to evolve because of the injury to Antonio Gates the last couple of weeks. He's been pressed into more of a receiver role. He's in motion. Gordon takes the handoff. He's hit behind the line of scrimmage and spins forward for 2. Corey James, the rookie from Colorado State.
And we haven't had a chance to talk about him that much, but talk about a little energy, a little insertion of energy into this defense the last couple of weeks. Led the team in tackles last week. Big-time solo physical tackles. There's been a nice little upgrade at inside linebackers for the Raiders defense.
25 sacks in college at Colorado State. Making a second start. That's Inman in motion to the near side on second down. Rivers steps up, fires, pass complete to Gates, and Gates stopped by Riley. About a yard shy of the first down.
Another option route inside, number 85. He's been absent the last couple weeks, but you better believe in clutch situations when they need to have something, the chemistry between Rivers and Gates working on linebackers has to be a part of their game plan.
9:40 to play, fourth quarter. This is such an important drive and an important third down and short for the Chargers. The way their season has gone. I formation with Watt as the fullback. The handoff to Watt, barrels into the line of scrimmage, and he's got a first down to the 40. Derek Watt, the younger brother of J.J. Watt. You know, there are drives and portions of a game that could possibly be a turning point as there's an injured player down. I mean, this is as big a drive as San Diego's had in quite some time. We talked about this being a must-win for Mike McCoy and his team. The drive will continue when we return. An injured player down in the field. It's King Dunlap. Back here in Oakland, where the Raiders lead it by 10, and the Chargers have the football and are moving it. It's a first down from the 40 of Oakland. After giving the Raiders a short field on their last two possessions they scored, now Phillip Rivers has to play from behind. It's a 4-turnover day for the Chargers. They throw it back to Rivers. Nobody's open downfield, but he finds Benjamin, and he's got a first down inside the 20-yard line. Well, Ken Whisenhunt said the players like when they mix it up a little bit with some of these offensive calls, and they certainly mixed it up there.
And they were trying to get, I believe it was Williams to Rivers' left, but that was well covered by Smith. But because there was no rush and Rivers got out of the pocket, then Benjamin was able to use his speed to cross from one side of the defense all the way to the other side. Big play.
23-yard gain. First down from the 17. 307 yards passing today for Phillip Rivers. The 48th time he's done that in his career. Gordon has a block, steps inside, down close to the 11. Stacey McGee makes the tackle. Still plenty of time left here in the fourth quarter, even though Rivers is down by 10.
Well, I don't know about plenty of time.
No.
You know, you still a touchdown, the field goal only ties it, and that's saying that you're going to stop the Raider offense as well.
Red zone possessions today, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They're in the red zone now on second down. Bunch formation to the left. The handoff to Gordon right up the middle. Oh, lowers his shoulder. A good hit. Inside the 10. He's close to a first down. I think he has it. Sean Smith makes the tackle eventually.
Hey, that was Corey James on the other side of that
he
one.
was.
Boy, Melvin Gordon, I think he's, I don't know, you think he's a little upset about
Might be.
what happened a couple series ago. Watch the end of this run, one-on-one. You better cover up that football.
Well,
Sean Smith right there.
It is a first down. First and goal from the 7. Williams and Inman to the left.
It was like Earl Campbell.
Did look like Earl Campbell, except the jersey wasn't ripped off. Gordon again, right side, inside the 5, and stopped at the 4. 7 minutes and counting to play here in the fourth quarter. Bruce Irvin makes the tackle for the Raiders. Well, you're right, though. The clock is winding down, but they seem to be content with taking their time on this offensive drive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think anytime you're at a deficit now and the fourth quarter is winding down, plays now become a premium.
Benjamin in the backfield. Rivers looks to Gates. Gates has it into the end zone. Touchdown, San Diego. Second touchdown of the year for Antonio Gates, the 79th hookup between Rivers and Gates.
Boy, what a play up top. You're going to see kind of a pick by Williams, and that allows Gates to slip underneath Perry Riley for the slant, and Rivers hits him. Clutch moments. They got to be real excited that Gates is back in the lineup for this game.
That is 106 career touchdown receptions for Gates. He is second only to our own Tony Gonzalez on the all-time list. The point after by Lambo. And it's good. It's a 3-point game with 6:21 to play here in the fourth quarter. Rivers to Gates. You've heard that before, haven't you?
CBS is sponsored by New York Life. With the right guidance, everyone can be good at life. And by Subway. Try the new Thick Cut Autumn Carb Turkey Sandwich.
The torch was lit today by Mark Van Egan, the former running back of the Oakland Raiders. Torch is lit before each and every game. More than 50,000 season tickets sold this year here at the Coliseum. The Chargers have pulled to within 3 with 6:21 to play here in the fourth quarter. The kickoff by Lambeau. And Richard will take a knee 3 yards deep. Thursday, your weekend starts here when the Denver Broncos tangle with the San Diego Chargers. Thursday Night Football on CBS and the NFL Network. Chargers trying to pull out a victory here. The Broncos have already lost to the high-flying Falcons. So the AFC West looks like this. Denver 4-1. Oakland with a win today would tie Denver. But it would be huge for San Diego to get out of Dodge with a victory to kind of ease some of the conversation back home in San Diego.
Both teams need a win here for very different reasons. You remember that nice little eruption when they showed the Denver score here by the home crowd of the Raiders.
Here's Carr for Washington, and Washington on first down. It's a gain of 1. Lee Bain makes the tackle. All right, so this season, Chargers 3 losses by combined 11 points. The Raiders 3 wins by combined 9 points. You talked about it in the open. You know, these fourth quarter games, the Raiders have been able to find the right formula to win, whereas the Chargers are still looking for that formula.
And just a handful of plays. You know, it's one thing that when you kind of give it to the other team, but I think one thing that you have to credit the Oakland Raiders is taking advantage of their opportunities.
Right.
And after struggling in the red zone early in this game, being able to capitalize on those early turnovers by San Diego.
Carr, by the way, over 300 yards, 306. He's under pressure. He gets away, and then right into the mix of Joey Bosa and taken down. Melvin Ingram was there as well, but it was Bosa that initiated that and then cleaned it up.
I would say that a pretty good prognosis so far from Bosa. On the left side, number 99. This is all effort. He gets around the corner, he goes down, he gets back up, and chases after Carr to get him to the ground. That is a major sack now on second down when your team needs to get the ball back. Putting the Raiders in third and long situation. Great play.
Well, that's his second sack of the day, so he's only 4 away from what John Pagano wanted today from Joey Bosa. Here's Carr on third down, middle of the field. And Richard is able to get up to the 33, but the Raiders will be forced to punt. Legit makes the tackle. An excellent job again by the Chargers defense.
They did exactly what they have to do. Credit Joey Bosa. You know, he made some nice rushes earlier in the first half. Been kind of quiet here in the second half, but as we always talk about, in the critical moments, you need guys to be able to step up, make plays. And for a guy that hasn't had much training here in the offseason because of his injury, trying to make an impact.
Marquette King is on to punt the football away as good as it gets. McCluster back deep to receive. He comes running up, has it at the 27. He's able to move away from one tackler, gets up to the 32. Well, hearts are moving in San Diego, and they have been all year. This is a 3-point game. So there are 3 losses. Week 1, they lost in overtime after leading by 21 points in the third quarter. Week 3 against the Colts. This is Ty Hilton, 63-yarder. Under 2 minutes left. That was the difference maker. Then week 4, this was awful. With a 6-point lead, Travis Benjamin fumbled. The fumble set up a John Kuhn game-winning touchdown run for New Orleans. What did Mike McCoy tell us yesterday? He goes, you kind of have to laugh a little bit to stop from crying in a situation like this. He said, nobody feels sorry for us. You know, we know where we are.
Well, he's right about nobody feeling sorry for him.
Right
now, he needs his quarterback and this offense to work some magic.
Gordon in the backfield. Rivers under center. 2 tight ends set on the right side. Gates on the left side. Off the play fake. Rivers looking to throw. To the left sideline. He throws it away. Last night, the great Chargers lineman Nick Hartwick, who does radio for San Diego, was asked to speak to the team. And he spoke to the team about just the thought process going into games. He said, listen, if you want to think that you can blow these fourth quarter leads, you are going to blow these fourth quarter leads. He said, you need to think, I'm going to close this game out. And that's just a paraphrase, but Hartwick was such a great Charger for so long. 2nd down and 10. Play clock at 2. Rivers to the near sideline has Benjamin. And Benjamin is able to get one man to miss. Carl Joseph.
Just a great example of Rivers knowing exactly where to go pre-snap with the football. Sees the linebackers inside blitzing. It knows that Benjamin is going to have an easy release to the flat. And a nice move after the catch. Remember, he had a great move for a big play in the first quarter to get down the sideline. But picking up extra yards.
Emerson missed the tackle. Joseph is credited with the tackle. 1st down from the 48 of San Diego. Still 2 timeouts left for the Chargers. Look at Rivers directing traffic with 5 on the play clock. To the far side of the field, he's got a man, and it's caught by Williams. Well, Tyrell Williams has really come into his own here this afternoon.
And he froze Sean Smith at the top of the route. Look at the protection by Gordon to pick up the blitzer. But this is Williams. He freezes Smith at the top of the route and then just runs by him. You know, Smith is not known for playing off. He's the type of corner you want to get up in his face. You want to press, you want to jam. Now here in the 4th quarter, playing a little conservative. You can't let a receiver run by you that way.
25-yard pass play. 2 receivers now over 100 yards today for the Chargers. Williams and Benjamin. On 1st down from the 27. Rivers steps up again, wobbles one to the near side. Benjamin again, and Benjamin looks like he's got a 1st down with DJ Hayden. Now he might be a yard shy. It's going to be a gain of 9, depending on the spots.
Raiders secondary, everybody is playing off in this drive, and they're allowing the catch underneath, afraid to let the ball get behind them. They're known to play better as an aggressive secondary, getting their hands on people. But right now, Rivers able to get the ball out to his open receivers downfield.
2nd and a little more than 1 officially for the Chargers. Griff Whalen in the game in the slot to the left. Rivers will just throw it away, fortunately, because Benjamin went inside. 3:05 to play here in the 4th quarter. The San Diego Chargers, who have blown 3 fourth-quarter leads, are behind by 3. Along with Adam Archuleta and Amanda Balionis, I'm Tom McCarthy. In a huge AFC West battle, the Raiders, they've capitalized on 4th-quarter victories. The Chargers have not. The Raiders 3-1, the Chargers 1-3.
This is a long one with no backs in the backfield. Watch the top of the screen, isolation on Smith.
And now Philip Rivers asked for a timeout.
Timeout. San Diego.
He definitively didn't like what he saw because he's a guy that usually can pick things apart. So what has happened today? We've got both quarterbacks over 300 yards passing today. Carr 317, Rivers 360. This is Gordon scoring his first receiving touchdown. Amari Cooper answers though, and Cooper picks up his first touchdown of the year. And how about this on 4th down to Michael Crabtree? The Chargers answered again. Antonio Gates and Philip Rivers. They've connected so often during their careers. So it's 34-31. For the Raiders, they're looking to continue to establish their presence in the AFC West, a young team. For the Chargers, they're looking to quiet the critics. not only in San Diego, but also around the country. This could be the play of the game right here.
Well, it's a huge play. You're down by 3 now, so you know you still have a chance for the field goal. But I don't think the Chargers want to take that chance. This is a long 3rd and 1. They need to try and convert this.
Gordon lowers his shoulder. It's going to be close. The Chargers are pointing a little farther than where the Raiders think. I think he's got the first down. Clock continues to run. Under 3 minutes to play. All right, so that spot is awfully close. Boy, that's a Raiders spot right there.
Boy,
he didn't get it. It's 4th down.
I don't think you have any choice right here.
Got to go for the field goal. Let's watch it again. Here's Gordon.
Now, there's nothing right there to tell me exactly where that spot should have been.
Yeah, whether his knee was down before the football went forward.
I tell you, that's a long. That was almost 2 yards.
It sure was.
And tough duty. Big kick here.
Well, this will be a 36-yard field goal attempt for the second-year pro at Texas A&M. His former college teammate Kaiser is the holder. And the snap goes off the fingertips of Kaiser. It's rolling around. And it looks like the Raiders pick it up at the 34-yard line. The Chargers have to think they are snake-bitten in the 4th quarter. Keith McGill recovered it. At that point, it didn't matter. How many ways can the Chargers let a 4th quarter opportunity go by the boards? Raiders up by 3, and Philip Rivers can't believe it. Was Josh Lambo's holder in college at Texas A&M. He has had a day to forget. Not only the 16-yard punt earlier that set up the Raiders' scoring opportunity, but he just mishandled a snap on a potential field goal to tie the game. Melvin Gordon fumble, and those are the ways that the Raiders have the lead with the football with 1:55 to play. The Chargers can only stop the clock one more time. They have 1 timeout left. For Mike Wint, the snapper, it looked like a clean snap. It looked like Kaiser just didn't hang on to it.
This hits him right there in the hands. He can't secure it. Bubbles. Tom, I've been around the game of football for a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like what has happened to the San Diego Chargers this season. The way they have lost games and the fashion they have lost these games, I just can't believe it. Some things in this world just don't make sense. This is one of them.
4 turnovers today for Mike McCoy's team. You know, we talk about it. Mike knows that his staff, he and his staff, are under fire in San Diego for all the losses in the 4th quarter. Sometimes you put it into the players' hands to perform, and sometimes they just don't do the job. And that's what's happening over the last several weeks.
How routine is a hold for a field goal on a perfect snap?
Yeah.
Unreal.
All the Chargers can hope is that they get another opportunity. It's 2nd down and 10. The defense has made stops today.
Waiting. What's up?
Carr hands it off. And the defense does stop Olawale behind the line of scrimmage. But again, they can't stop the clock. They have no timeouts left. Tonight on CBS begins with 60 Minutes and amazing advances in artificial intelligence and how it will affect you. Followed by CBS News coverage of the 2nd presidential debate. Tonight, only CBS.
So they're probably only, if they do get the ball back, have 12 or 14 seconds left on the clock after a punt with no timeouts. Tough spot to be in for Philip Rivers and the San Diego offense if they do in fact get the ball back.
1:12 and counting to play. It's 3rd down and 13 for Carr. He's content to just hand it off, and Olawale gets past the original line of scrimmage. So the Chargers will get the ball back, but as Adam said, no timeouts left for Mike McCoy's team. Don't forget, they had to burn a timeout earlier in the 2nd half. They had to use that timeout early in the 2nd half.
So you really only have 2 options. I mean, don't forget the Raiders probably have the best punter in the league right now.
Correct.
So you can send everybody on the line and try and block it. Or try and set up a return.
Well, McCluster is back deep to receive. He stands at his 17. Marquette King averages just under 52 yards per punt. And now the Raiders will use a timeout.
A 30-second timeout.
With 20 seconds to play. Now, they wanted to run as much time off the clock as possible, which is what they've done here. Boy, you said in the open, we've talked about it throughout this game. How about the ways the Chargers have lost fourth quarter leads? But how about the way the Raiders have won games in the fourth quarter? Now, they had the lead here, but they still had to hold the leads.
It comes down to, as we talked about, who makes the plays in the defining moments of the game. And that's really what it comes down to. Raiders taking advantage of the miscues of the Chargers.
Right.
And the Chargers continuing this trend that has been plaguing them this entire season by giving the ball up.
Chargers this year have not often called for a fair catch on punts. They do go after King, and he gets it off, and this is a beauty of a punt. I mean, it's a beautiful kick. No fair catch. McCluster's going to try to return it up to the 20-yard line. So 12 seconds and counting to play. They'll stop the clock with 11 to play. Well, there's no Ray Lewis dance for King this week.
That was a great punt.
Great punt.
First and 10 for the Chargers at their 21.
For Phillip Rivers of the Chargers, is their season on the line with these last 11 seconds? A 51-yard punt moves the ball back to the 21-yard line. The standings look like this. For the Raiders, they're trying to move to 4-1 for the first time since 2002. They went to the Super Bowl that year. 11 seconds to play in the fourth quarter. The Raiders have everybody back. They have a three-man front. Mack is dancing around. Rivers steps up, slings it to the near side, has Benjamin. Oh, he's got to get away from the middle of the field. Now he throws it back off the fingertips of one of his linemen. It goes out of bounds. King Dunlap couldn't hold on, and the clock winds down. And the Oakland Raiders have hung on and have defeated the San Diego Chargers 34-31. Execution in the fourth quarter again helps the Oakland Raiders pick up a victory, and they are 4-1 for the first time since they went to the Super Bowl back in 2002.
And we all know the Chargers made critical mistakes in this game, but I think we have to give the Oakland Raiders credit. They've struggled to win games here at home. They've been outstanding on the road. But even though the other team makes mistakes, you still have to go out there and capitalize on it, and that's exactly what the Oakland Raiders went out there and did here today.
34-31 the final score. Derek Carr, his continued maturation was evident today. 25 of 40, 317 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Raiders capitalized on the mishaps for the San Diego Chargers, and all Phillip Rivers could do is wipe his brow. Tonight on CBS, it begins with 60 Minutes and amazing advances in artificial intelligence and how it will affect you, followed by CBS News coverage of the second presidential debate. Tonight, only CBS. Derek Carr and the Raiders are now tied with the Denver Broncos for first place in the AFC West. It's early, but you can see that their confidence is gaining.
You get confidence by going out and making plays in big moments and proving to yourself that no matter what the situation is, that you can go out there and make those plays and win this game. And so I have to imagine this football team, not only are they excited about what lies ahead of them, but they have to have a great sense of confidence as they go throughout their season.
Well, the Raiders win it by 3, 34-31. They hang on after a mishap on a field goal attempt by the Chargers, which would have tied it. The final score, it is Oakland 34 and San Diego 31. Tonight on CBS at 60 Minutes, followed by the second presidential debate. So for Adam Archuleta and Amanda Valiotis, I'm Tom McCarthy saying so long from Oakland. What a day here in Oakland for the Raiders. You've been watching the NFL on CBS.